At a corner of the street lies a small restaurant, and that's Soma's restaurant. Today, Soma is having a cooking showdown with his father, and the judge of the competition is this girl. Leaving everyone curious about who will win, after some thought, she still chooses Soma's father as the winner, leaving Soma disappointed, as this marks his 500th loss. So, everyone tries the dish made by Soma's father, leaving them very happy, because the food here is delicious. While Mayumi is comforting Soma, he offers her to try grilled squid tentacles dressed in peanut butter, Soma's new dish. Unexpectedly, this dish turns out to be terrible, like an octopus tightly embracing her. It turns out Soma's flaw is always forcing others to try his new dishes. That night, after both father and son finish their work, Soma is still thinking of ways to defeat his father, so he can take over the restaurant. Suddenly, a group of people walks into Soma's restaurant. She introduces herself as Minigasaki, an urban life planner expert. She claims that this restaurant is hindering the city's development, and wants Soma to close it down, but Soma immediately refuses and kicks them out. Unexpectedly, Minigasaki continues to threaten Soma, saying she will inspect his food, but Soma remains confident, as he always keeps the restaurant's food well preserved. So they leave. The next day, after Soma returned from school, his father called to inform him that he had to go on a business trip today, and asked Soma to close the restaurant. Unexpectedly, upon returning, Soma found all the meat in the restaurant had been ruined, and even paint was splashed on the restaurant's signboard. Suddenly, Minigasaki appeared to taunt Soma, saying she wanted to eat meat at this restaurant today. Seeing Soma silent only made her more pleased. She thought Soma wouldn't be able to cook. Unexpectedly, he decided that he would cook her a delicious meal today for sure. So, Soma headed to the kitchen and showcased his cooking skills. Seeing him able to cook took them by surprise, as they thought all the meat in the restaurant was ruined. But Soma still managed to use the meat to cook. In the end, he completed a dish of roast pork. It turned out that the morning before going to school, he had bought some meat and potatoes, so he could cook. But Minigasaki still didn't accept this meat dish. She said she would take over this restaurant and turn it into a 5-star restaurant. But Soma told Minigasaki to try his meat dish. Unexpectedly, the smell of the meat made Minigasaki unable to resist, so she decided to try it. Unexpectedly, the taste of the meat was delicious. Soma sees her looking very happy while eating his food. Soma told her that this dish was made from potatoes. Then, Soma continued by finely chopping naringi mushrooms. Next, Soma chopped some white onions and mixed them all into the potatoes. Then he used packs of thick-cut bacon wrapped around the potatoes. Next, he put the potatoes in the microwave so that the meat flavor could seep into the potatoes, making them taste meaty and crispy. It turns out, he came up with the idea for this dish from his past failures. Unexpectedly, it made Minigasaki crave it, but Soma said, "If you want more, you can't target this restaurant anymore." Seeing Minigasaki still hesitating, Soma took the dish away. Suddenly, Minigasaki agreed with him, so Soma let them continue eating his roast pork dish. They were delighted, because the meat flavor spread in their mouths. In the end, Soma won. So the next morning, he started cleaning the restaurant's signboard. At this point, his father had also returned. He realized what had happened at the restaurant while he was away, and he informed Soma that he would close the restaurant for 3 years, leaving Soma shocked. But he only explained that he would work together with a friend of his, leaving Soma puzzled about why he decided like that, as he cherished this shop dearly. Soma's father then said, "Son, go challenge your own culinary skills." And he introduced Soma to enroll in Culinary Academy. So the next morning, Soma began to head to Culinary Academy. But he still didn't understand why his father wanted him to learn cooking, because he believes he has cooked very well. Suddenly, Soma saw many people failing the entrance exam. It turns out Culinary Academy is the top school in Japan, and the graduation rate here is always below 10%. Inside Culinary Academy, there were many people taking the exam. When Arena tasted the students' dishes, she felt like she was bathing in hot springs. But then a gorillas appeared, because the dish was too awful. It turns out the students who applied here were all famous chefs, but they all got scolded by Arena, because their food wasn't delicious enough to satisfy her palate. At this point, Soma noticed that the students who applied here, they are both wealthy individuals. Soma's father told him that he went to New York and was staying at a royal hotel reserved for VIP guests. It turns out Joichiro is working as a chef here, making everyone delighted because his food is delicious. He told Soma that he will continue to visit other famous restaurants around the world to cook. Joichiro said, "If you can't stay at that school, you'll never surpass me," which made Soma excited, and he decided to study here to surpass his father. When Soma entered the school, he accidentally kicked a chair. So, Soma met Yoshiaki. It turns out his family runs a chain of French-style restaurants, which surprised Soma, and he told Soma that the students here are all famous in the culinary world. When Yoshiaki found out that Soma's restaurant was just a small one, he immediately kicked him out and scolded him for being a commoner. who dares to talk on his level, and he thinks this place is reserved for noble people, not for commoners like Soma, which made Soma furious and knock him down. But everyone here looked at Soma with disdain. At this point, Soma entered the exam venue. Unexpectedly, the judge was Irina, which puzzled Soma, as he didn't understand why she, a student, could be a judge. Irina had prepared a cooking station in advance. She said the main ingredient would be eggs, and told them to cook a dish that could satisfy her palate. Irina gave them 1 minute to withdraw their exam applications, which made everyone scared and run away, while Soma didn't know who she was. It turns out Irina is known as God's tongue, because since childhood, she has had a tongue that can evaluate every dish. So, she is highly respected by renowned chefs worldwide. If they are judged as untalented by her, their culinary careers will end. Thus, Soma understood why everyone was so afraid. While Irina thought there was no one left, she then realized Soma was still there, which surprised her, and made her think he was challenging her. So, she agreed to let Soma cook. At this point, Soma started holding a knife, making them very curious. Not knowing who Soma was, he said, "As long as you praise it as delicious, that's all that matters, right?" Thus, Soma started cooking, making them wonder what Soma would do, with only eggs as ingredients. So, Irina asked Soma, "What are you cooking?" Soma told her that the dish he was cooking was a secret dish from his Yukihira restaurant. When she found out it was just furikake gohan, which is only rice and eggs, it made Irina angry. But Soma said it was a transforming furikake gohan dish, making Irina curious, not knowing how his dish would turn out. But when she saw it was just a normal furikake dish, this disappointed Irina, because high-end dishes are usually prepared very delicately and beautifully. But Soma's dish was too ordinary. Suddenly, Soma said, "I'm not done yet." So, he poured all the eggs onto a bowl of rice, causing the eggs to spread and soak into the rice. Irina could smell its delicious aroma. So, Soma offered her a taste. When Irina tried a piece, it made her forget about her own evaluation. Irina wanted to have more. She immediately got teased by Soma, but this time, she guessed the ingredients in his dish. It turns out Soma used meat, fish, chicken wings, and alcohol to cook a soup. Then, let it cool so it would solidify, and he sliced it and put it on hot rice, so the soup would melt, surprising Irina, as she hadn't encountered this flavor before. Despite trying to act like he doesn't like Soma's dish, she couldn't resist this dish. Soma thought he had won. Unexpectedly, Irina still said, "It's awful," and she failed Soma because she didn't want Soma to surpass her at Totsuki Culinary Academy. But there was an old man who tried Soma's dish. He immediately felt it was delicious. At this point, the opening ceremony for the new school year began. Irina was evaluated as the top student of the academy. It turns out she's the granddaughter of the headmaster of this academy. Seeing the principal appear, making all the students fearful, because he is a top culinary expert in the world. At this point, he said that the culinary world is very competitive, so 99% of the students here will only be polishing the remaining 1% gemstones, and those with poor performance will be eliminated from this academy, causing worry among everyone. But there are still many people intrigued. At this point, Irina thought she wouldn't meet Soma again, but he unexpectedly appeared at the podium, shocking Irina. Soma said, "All the students here will become stepping stones for me, and I will take the #1 position in this academy," which made everyone furious. But the most surprised person was still Irina. She couldn't understand why Soma was here. It turns out Soma received an acceptance letter, while Irina still couldn't comprehend, because she had failed him before. But Irina still didn't acknowledge Soma, and said he couldn't take the #1 position here. So, Soma told her, "At the age of 3, I held a kitchen knife. At 12, I was already a chef." Thus, Soma will force her to praise his food as delicious. Unexpectedly, the principal is the one who arranged everything. At this point, there is a girl named Megumi who is worried, because she fears she will be eliminated from this academy. It turns out Megumi came from a remote village, so everyone in the village pinned their hopes on her. Seeing the affection of everyone towards her, Megumi is determined to become a skilled chef. Unexpectedly, when she entered Totsuki Culinary Academy, Megumi's performance was always very poor. But Megumi never gives up, because she is the hope of everyone in the village. At this point, Soma and Megumi have entered the classroom. The first lesson is they have to cook in pairs. While everyone dislikes Soma, Megumi is still worried. It turns out Soma and Megumi will be a pair. So, Megumi told Soma that if she gets one more E grade, she will be expelled from this academy, which surprised Soma, because there are also weaklings like Megumi in this academy. At this point, the teacher entered the classroom. Megumi said he is Roland, a teacher teaching French cuisine. He declared that if the dish doesn't get an A grade, it will automatically receive an E grade, making Megumi even more worried. She told Soma, Roland is an extremely strict teacher, and he has already expelled 18 students. He said today's dish is boeuf bourguignon, but Soma doesn't know what this dish is, so he thinks it will be easy to cook. While Soma is looking at the cooking recipe, everyone else is trying to cook. Thus, Megumi is very focused on watching the fire and time. Suddenly, two people targeted her. Soma noticed that Megumi's pot lid was open, so he realized they were up to something. Unexpectedly, they had added a lot of salt to Megumi's pot, making her very worried, because Megumi didn't have time to cook again. Suddenly, Soma took out different ingredients, and he decided to remake the buff bourguignon dish. So, Megumi also quickly regained her spirits to help Soma. While these two thought that this time Soma and Megumi would be eliminated, unexpectedly, he completed the dish, and Soma offered it to the teacher to taste. He realized the meat was very tender, making them wonder how he did it. It turned out Soma had used honey. Roland realized that honey helps break down proteins, making the meat tender in a short time. It turns out that when Soma was young, he researched and found ways to tenderize meat. When Megumi and Roland tasted it, they felt like they were bathing in honey, surprising everyone in the class, because Roland was laughing, so he decided to give both of them a grades, surprising everyone, while the meat pot of these two was burnt, and they were given E grades. At this point, Megumi thanked Soma. She realized Soma was really amazing, so Soma offered her to taste his new dish. Unexpectedly, its taste was very bad. On Irina's side, she received the news. Soma achieved the highest score, making her angry. Determined to eliminate Soma in the afternoon, Soma was looking for the academy's dormitory. Unexpectedly, he found the place very gloomy. When Soma stepped inside, he realized the place was very chaotic. Suddenly, an old lady appeared. She introduced herself as Fumio, the manager of this dormitory, and the condition for Soma to stay in this dormitory was that he had to cook a dish that pleased her. But because Soma didn't know this rule, he didn't bring any ingredients with him. She said there were only a few leftover ingredients in the kitchen, so Soma decided to use those ingredients. Soma realized there were still some vegetables, eggs, flour, and rice. Thus, he decided to cook with these ingredients, making Fumio surprised. So, Soma started cooking, and he made a piece of hamburger meat. It turned out Soma had used canned mackerel, then combined with eggs, onions, and breadcrumbs, and he completed this improvised mackerel burger meal. When she tasted it, unexpectedly, its taste was very good. Even the soup Soma made was very tasty, making Fumio wonder how he made this soup. It turns out Soma had used dried squid when eating Soma's dish, making Fumio feel like she was young again. And she remembered her first confession of love, which shocked Soma, because he almost got kissed by her. Finally, Fumio agreed to let Soma stay in the dormitory, making him very happy. Now, Soma was in his room. As he remembered working with his father at the restaurant, suddenly, a young man appeared on the ceiling, shocking Soma. It turned out he invited Soma to a party with everyone. Now, Soma met Megumi again, surprising her, because Soma passed Fumio's test with just one try, while she took 2 months to pass. Suddenly, Soma asked, "Who is the Elite 10 Council?" As he remembered Irina was also a member of this group, so people explained to him that they are the top 10 outstanding students in the academy, and their power ranks just below the principals. Thus, even the teachers can't make things difficult for them. At this point, Satoshi brought food to celebrate Soma joining the dormitory, but he talked a lot and liked to find people through the attic. Soma realized that the people here were very quirky, but still very friendly. Unexpectedly, Soma quickly integrated with everyone, and by late evening, everyone was tired and went to bed, while Satoshi was offering Soma a taste of his dish. Unexpectedly, Soma found it very delicious, and he realized that Satoshi was on a different level from the other students. At this point, Satoshi told Soma that he was the 7th seed of the Elite 10, and Satoshi said, "This time I want to taste your dish." So, Soma decided to cook for him, and he decided to use his secret dish number 20 from his restaurant to compete with Satoshi's pepper mackerel dish. Thus, he also used mackerel. Suddenly, everyone woke up, and they realized that Soma was challenging Satoshi. After cooking for a while, Soma's revamped mackerel onigiri chazuke was completed. They wondered what liquid Soma had put in the dish. It turned out he had added salted kelp tea, so everyone started tasting it. Unexpectedly, it tasted very good, and the fish meat was very tender, but the fish skin was crispy. Satoshi explained that he fried the food in a French style and used oil to baste the fish. This surprised Satoshi, because Soma knew how to cook in a French style. It turned out this technique was taught by his father. At this point, everyone enjoyed eating Soma's dish, making them feel like it was springtime now. So in this match, Soma and Satoshi tied. When Megumi woke up, she couldn't understand why Satoshi was naked and holding hands with Soma, after everyone returned to their rooms. Then, Soma asked Satoshi how to get into the Elite 10 Council. Hearing that Soma wanted to join the Elite 10 Council made Satoshi very happy, but he said that's enough for today, and told Soma to go back to his room to rest, because he realized Soma's goal was to take the number 1 position, but that's not easy in this academy. The next morning when everyone woke up, they saw Soma continuing to challenge Satoshi to claim his 7th seat, but nobody cared. Turns out Soma wanted to claim a seat in the Elite 10 Council. They have to participate in a competition called a food war organized by the Academy. On Arena's side, someone was challenging her. If he wins, Arena will lose her 10th seat. At this point, Satoshi explained to Soma if he wants to challenge Satoshi, Soma has to bet something of equivalent value. So currently, Soma cannot compete with Satoshi. Satoshi also said there are 3 things necessary in a match. Someone to prove the legitimacy of the match. The number of judges must be odd. Agreement from both opponents. On Arena's side, she won, but her opponent still refuses to concede. So, Arena tasted his dish, making her imagine herself diving underwater. But then a herd of hippos runs by, upon hearing Arena's evaluation of his dish, causing him to get angry, and he also tasted her dish, making him feel like he was in a sumo match. So, he lost, and his restaurant used to bet with Arena was destroyed. On Soma's side, he was disappointed, while Satoshi highly praised Soma. But Ibusaki realizes Satoshi has a tie result with Soma, because he wasn't serious yet. However, Satoshi realized Soma will be a new culinary genius of the academy. The next day, Soma saw Satoshi taking care of the dormitory garden. Megumi was also here to harvest vegetables, so Satoshi offered Soma to taste a tomato. Unexpectedly, it tasted very good. Turned out, Satoshi had spent a lot of time caring for this garden. He even skipped classes for it, so everyone harvested vegetables together. At this moment, Megumi made breakfast for everyone, making them very happy, because each onigiri had different seasonings inside. When Soma tasted it, he realized Megumi had used her secret technique. Marinating the meat with honey made it softer, but Soma didn't understand why Megumi couldn't cook this well in class. It turned out she had a psychological barrier from childhood. At this point, everyone told Soma about the research societies at the academy. They often invent cooking recipes, so Megumi took Soma to see, making Soma surprised, because there were many different research societies. Thus, Soma chose to try the Donburi Research Society. Unexpectedly, when they arrived, Soma found this guy very disheartened. He introduced himself as Konishi, the president of this research society. Konishi said the Donburi Research Society had disbanded. Soma saw there were many cooking recipes here. He realized these recipes were all excellent. Seeing Soma understanding his cooking recipes made Konishi very happy. Turned out, Arena had cut his budget, so Konishi's research society ended up like this. Suddenly, a girl brought people in to take over Konishi's research society. She even threatened him by cutting his hair. Megumi recognized her as Ikumi, nicknamed Meat Master, seeing her threatening Konishi. So, Soma stood up to challenge her, even using meat, Ikumi's specialty, to challenge her. Seeing Soma very confident, so she said, "If you lose, you have to leave the academy." Unexpectedly, Soma immediately agreed, and said if he won, Ikumi had to join this research society, making everyone surprised. So, Ikumi agreed to duel with Soma. By evening, everyone saw the news. Soma would challenge Ikumi, making everyone puzzled. How will Soma win? The next morning, Konishi explained to Soma about the different types of meat. He said if Ikumi uses grade A5 meat, then Soma will surely lose, because he had tasted Ikumi's meat dish before. Even this meat can be drank, and the taste of the meat was very fragrant, could slip down his throat. So, Soma decided to use beef to make a Donburi dish, even without using premium meat, because he wanted Ikumi to acknowledge them. But when he found out Konishi had run out of budget, thus, Soma immediately went to the ATM to withdraw his money. Unexpectedly, his father sent very little money, so Soma started using the Donburi Research Society's formula. Although it was very delicious, however, still not as good as Ikumi's meat. Thus, Soma continued to cook, but he still wasn't successful. The next morning, they continued cooking, although they had used all the formulas of the Research Society, but still not as delicious as Ikumi's, making everyone disheartened. Suddenly, Megumi reminded Soma how he used honey to tenderize the meat, so he came up with a way to cook cheap meat. First, Soma cut the meat into pieces and pounded it flat. Then, he mixed the meat with onions and started frying the meat. Finally, the Shalapan steak don dish was completed. Konishi realized this was a special dish, so both of them started tasting. Unexpectedly, the meat was very tender and spread in their mouths. Turns out he used onions to tenderize the meat as a substitute for honey. The next day, Soma and Ikumi's match was about to begin. By now, Soma had also finished preparing, so they started going into the arena. Seeing Ikumi appear made everyone excited, but when it was Soma's turn, no one liked him, making Megumi very worried. At this point, Ikumi thought Soma wouldn't be able to beat her, so Soma decided to prove her wrong. Suddenly, Arena also came to watch the match, making everyone surprised, because a member of the Elite 10 Council also came to watch this small match. As the match began, Ikumi told Soma the ingredient she used was grade A5 beef, so Ikumi immediately used a knife to cut the beef, which surprised everyone. When Ikumi smelled the meat, She analyzed all the components that made the meat delicious. So, Ikumi started frying the meat, making everyone smell its aroma. Next, Ikumi put the meat in the oven, while Soma was finely chopping onions. Everyone was curious about what kind of meat Soma would use to compete with Ikumi. Unexpectedly, he only used a cheap piece of meat that was even on sale, making everyone think Soma was just fooling around. Ikumi thought she would definitely win this time, so she continued to prepare her piece of meat, and she used a needle to sense the temperature of the meat. The way she touched the meat resembled Ikumi playing a musical instrument. Suddenly, Ikumi saw Soma calmly frying onions, so she came over to tease Soma, but Soma said, "A chef's skills are judged on the dining table." Thus, they resumed cooking. Finally, the cooking time was up. First, Ikumi brought her dish for the judges to taste. As they tried it, they could feel the taste of the high-grade beef spreading in their mouths, and they realized her grilling temperature is very consistent. Even her rice absorbed the flavor of the beef, making the dish even more delicious. While everyone thought Ikumi was sure to win, it was Soma's turn to step up. The judges noticed Soma's trick of using onions to tenderize the meat, so they thought this dish was also very ordinary. But when Soma opened the lid, the judges were surprised and tasted it. Unexpectedly, they ate it eagerly and couldn't stop because they realized Soma used a special sauce, stimulating their appetite. It turns out he used red wine combined with onions to make the sauce. Seeing the judges continuously praising Soma's dish made Ikumi worried, and he told everyone that there was a secret inside the rice. He mixed the rice with pickled plum to enhance the flavor of the rice, making the judges very delighted, and they finished the bowl. While Ikumi's dish still has leftovers, seeing Ikumi still unwilling to admit defeat, so Soma offered her to taste his dish. Unexpectedly, Ikumi also immediately finishes eating, and she remembered her childhood, Ikumi always being pressured by her father to inherit the family business. Now, when eating Soma's dish, Ikumi realized she wanted to be herself. In the end, the winner was Soma, making everyone very happy, while Ikumi lost, so she was abandoned by Arena. Suddenly, she was teased by Soma again, making Ikumi embarrassed and run away, while Konishi handed over the position of president of the Donburi Research Society to Soma. The next day, everyone heard the news that the academy will organize a training camp soon. It's like an outdoor trip. Suddenly, Soma saw Megumi looking worried. Everyone say that it's a hellish training camp, and all first-year students had to participate. If they didn't have enough points, they would be expelled immediately. Upon hearing that half of the students from the previous year were reduced after the training session, Megumi immediately fainted. But Soma remained very optimistic, so he helped everyone regain confidence and determined to surpass the training session. The next morning, the training camp from hell began, making Soma and everyone very excited. When they arrived, they saw a very large hotel. Make Soma's team excited because they get to stay in this 5-star hotel. But when they entered inside, they saw many students looking worried, including Megumi. Suddenly, Soma saw Ikumi, making her very shy to meet Soma. At this point, Roland announced to everyone that the duration of this training course is 6 days. Every day they will be tested in cooking. If they don't pass, they will be expelled from school. And the ones who will evaluate their dishes are the culinary geniuses who have graduated from the academy. Suddenly, a student was expelled because he used hairspray with a citrus scent, and it would reduce the flavor of the dish, making everyone worried. It turns out they are all famous chefs, and the most prominent among them, that's Jin, the general head chef of this hotel. So, he just announced that the official training camp has begun. At this moment, Soma arrived at the first training session. Upon hearing they'll be cooking in pairs, made Megumi very happy, because she could pair up with Soma. Suddenly, a guy came and kicked his leg. Soma realized they were picking a fight with him. They declared they would defeat Soma in this training camp. At this point, Hanako said they would use the ingredients here to cook, but they didn't see any ingredients on the table. It turns out the ingredients they cook with have to be found in the forest outside, but they only have 2 hours to complete the dish, which shocked everyone, and they immediately ran off to find ingredients, while this guy still wanted to compete with Soma and asked Hanako to be the judge for them, but Hanako declined, leaving him embarrassed. However, he still insisted on competing with Soma, while the other students were trying to find ingredients. Soma was sitting fishing. Finally, they caught 2 fish. When they returned, they saw this guy boasting to everyone. Turns out he caught a duck. So, the 2 brothers started preparing the food. Seeing their cooking skills surprised Megumi. At this point, they introduced themselves to Soma. His name is Takumi, and his younger brother is Isami. Turns out they hated Soma, since he declared himself as a professional chef at the opening ceremony. So, Soma decided to compete against them. Suddenly, Takumi pulled out his kitchen knife with both hands and cut the ingredients very quickly. Next up was Isami. He also sliced the meat very quickly. Finally, their Italian-style dish was completed, so they had Hanako taste it, making her feel like she was at a concert. Even people recognized their sauce. It's also a special Italian dipping sauce. but he turned this dipping sauce into a Japanese style, making Hanako very pleased, and she gave the two brothers a perfect score. Megumi recognized Takumi's cooking skills and intelligence. Worthy opponent of Soma, turns out Takumi and Isami are famous chefs at a restaurant in Italy. But their father felt Takumi was missing something, so he decided to enroll both of them in culinary academy. He could find a worthy opponent, but upon hearing Soma's speech at the opening ceremony, it made Takumi angry. At this point, Takumi continued to challenge Soma, so Hanako agreed to help them evaluate who cooked better, but Hanako suggested the loser would have to kneel in front of the opponent and say, "I am the loser," 3 times. So Soma agreed, and immediately told Megumi to help him find ingredients. Soma went to Hanako's place to get Hanako's persimmon seeds to use as the main ingredient, because the rule is he can use any ingredients here, which made Takumi confused about what Soma was planning. So, Soma and Megumi went to find ingredients together, while Hanako kept failing other students consecutively. Finally, Soma and Megumi returned, but they only had 15 minutes left to complete the dish, so both of them started cooking. While Takumi couldn't understand, Soma was planning to do with eggs, fish, and persimmon seeds. Suddenly, he realized Soma was planning to make a fried dish. Finally, Soma's dish was completed. When Hanako tasted it, she immediately became delighted because of the crispiness of the fish and the sound it made when eaten. And his dipping sauce was also very delicious. It was a combination of oil, egg yolk, and pepper, making Hanako feel like she was a mermaid swimming under the sea when eating. At this point, Hanako realized both Soma and Takumi were talented chefs, so she also gave Soma a passing grade after everyone's test was finished. Now, it's time to evaluate whose dish is better, but Hanako still couldn't decide, so she just ran away, shocking both of them. But Takumi still insisted on defeating Soma, and he scheduled another food war with Soma next time, so Takumi left. But they quickly met again on the bus. By evening, Soma returned to meet his group. Luckily, they all passed today's test. They thought they would get to rest comfortably, but they still had to continue cooking for the members of the fitness club here, and each person had to complete 50 servings in 60 minutes. If they didn't finish, they would be expelled. So, everyone immediately went to cook, making them very tired. While everyone was trying, Soma completed 50 servings, so Soma got to rest first. When he was about to go shower, he accidentally bumped into Irina, making Irina couldn't believe she met Soma here again. While the two were teasing each other, suddenly, Hisako ran over, thinking Soma was bullying Irina. So, Soma teased them and left. At this point, Soma decided to go shower. Unexpectedly, he met Jin here, which surprised him, because Soma is the first student to enter the bathhouse. It turns out that every year during the 50-serving challenge, he tries to finish showering before the students enter, but last year, someone entered the bathhouse first. It turns out that person was Satoshi, making Soma surprised, and he realized Irina had completed 50 servings before him. At this point, Jin tells Soma that since childhood, Irina has been able to evaluate every dish. She can even blindfold herself and taste different salts to determine their place of origin. However, it's her cooking skills that have helped Irina become part of the Elite 10 Council. When Takumi went to the bathhouse to find Soma, he was surprised to see Jin here too, realizing he had been in the bath too long, so he bid farewell to Soma and left, leaving Takumi shocked, because he dared to shake hands with Jin on Megumi's team. Finally, they were able to rest, while Zenji was very tired, but Soma's team wanted to organize a party. The next morning, the second day test began. The one who will evaluate them is Shinomiya, making everyone worried, because yesterday he expelled 30 people. He said today they must prepare the 9-vegetable terrine dish. These 9 types of vegetables must be prepared in different ways, and they won't be assessed in groups, making Megumi worried, because she won't be paired with Soma anymore. Upon hearing they only have 3 hours, everyone rushed to gather ingredients, causing Megumi to fall. But she was determined to overcome this challenge, so Soma and Megumi chose their ingredients. However, when she chose cauliflower, there were only bad cauliflowers left, making Megumi worried, thinking of asking Soma for help. But she realized she couldn't always rely on Soma. Suddenly, Megumi came up with an idea. At this point, Shinomiya saw 2 people exchanging information, so he immediately disqualified them, while Megumi was trying to cook. Finally, the cooking time was up. Many students were disqualified by Shinomiya. When it was Soma's turn, he passed. Now it was Megumi's turn. Shinomiya tasted her dish. Unexpectedly, Megumi was disqualified, making Megumi surprised. Not understanding why she was disqualified, Shinomiya said she used wine vinegar to preserve the color of the cauliflower. Although it's a great way to flavor vegetables, Megumi changed his recipe, so he didn't like it. Unexpectedly, Soma stood up to defend Megumi, saying he failed to preserve the ingredients, making Shinomiya angry and revealing to them that he was the one who mixed in the poor quality cauliflowers to deliberately reduce the number of students. At this point, Shinomiya threatened to disqualify Soma too, making him angry, but Megumi stopped him, because he didn't want Megumi to be disqualified, so Soma decided he would have a food war with him, making everyone surprised, because Shinomiya graduated and was a former member of the Elite 10 Council. But Shinomiya thought it unnecessary to battle Soma. Suddenly, Jin appeared, feeling intrigued by the situation, so he decided to let Soma battle Shinomiya. Seeing that Jin wanted to watch the match, Shinomiya agreed. If they win, Megumi will stay, but if they lose, both will be expelled. At this point, Megumi kept blaming Soma because he challenged Shinomiya just for her, but Soma said it was his decision, and he didn't want Megumi to be expelled. By evening, everyone had finished the test, but they couldn't find Soma and Megumi, making them worried. While Soma and Megumi were preparing to battle Shinomiya, unexpectedly, the former students also came to watch them fight, and they would be the judges. At this point, Soma and Megumi would battle Shinomiya together. Their dish would be made from vegetables and fruits. Suddenly, Jin suggested Megumi be the head chef, making her surprised, while Soma would just assist her, so Soma immediately objected. But Jin said it was just an unofficial match. Even if Soma wins, help Megumi stay. But she will eventually be eliminated in the next challenges, so this match is Megumi's. Seeing Shinomiya has chosen the ingredients makes Megumi worried. But Soma isn't allowed to help her choose the recipe, because he's just a sous chef. Now, Megumi is very nervous, not knowing which ingredients to choose, so Soma immediately hit Megumi's hand to help her calm down, and Megumi realizes she's no longer nervous, thanks to Soma's advice. Don't worry about the opponent, just cook your own dish. It helps Megumi remember her mother, and she came up with an idea for the dish. Hearing Megumi's idea made Soma very excited, so they started cooking. Now, Megumi has finished cutting the tomatoes, but she suddenly remembered she forgot to cut the meat. Luckily, Soma had already cut the meat, so Soma continued to assist Megumi, making her very surprised, because he had prepared all the ingredients for her. Finally, the cooking time ran out. Shinomiya then presented his dish to the judges for tasting, surprising them, because he had finely chopped the meat and vegetables for his dish. Then he followed up with a cabbage roll. As they tasted it, they found the flavor very delicious, because he had harmoniously combined chicken and vegetables. It turns out, after graduating, Shinomiya went to work in a restaurant in France, making everyone like his dishes, and they called him the vegetable wizard. At this point, the judges couldn't stop eating, and they felt like they were under a spell. Finally, it was Megumi's turn. Seeing her worried, Soma immediately cheered her on. As they saw Megumi's dish, they realized it was a rainbow terrine, made from 7 different types of vegetables. Shinomiya recognized it was similar to his 9-vegetable terrine, but Megumi explained she just wanted others to taste her own recipe, so the judges started tasting Megumi's dish. At this point, she remembered her past failures, making Megumi very anxious. Unexpectedly, they praised her dish as very delicious, and they noticed there were 2 types of sauce in it. The first type was lemon, and the second type was herbal. It even allowed them to taste 14 different flavors. Jin noticed there were sun-dried tomatoes in the dish, so she told them that's how they preserve vegetables in her hometown, and she learned how to cook it from her mother. At this point, they recognized Megumi's rainbow terrine was completely different from Shinomiya's 9-vegetable terrine, making the judges feel like they had traveled to various countryside regions. Seeing everyone enjoying her dish made Megumi very happy. Finally, it was time to make the decision, making Megumi anxious, because she wanted to stay at the academy with Soma. Unexpectedly, everyone chose Shinomiya, so he won. Soma then comforted Megumi, but she realized that because of her, Soma was also expelled. When Shinomiya was about to leave, Jin placed a coin down to acknowledge Megumi's dish, surprising everyone. While Shinomiya didn't understand why, Jin tossed a coin to him and said, "You're being delayed, Shinomiya." This made him recall 10 years ago. It turns out, before graduating, he wished to return to France to open his own restaurant. 6 years later, he went to France to fulfill his dream, and finally opened a restaurant, making the customers there love his food. This caused envy among other chefs, so they secretly altered his sauce recipe, causing Shinomiya's business to decline. Thus, he fired both chefs, and started trusting only himself, forced the staff to follow his recipes. Since then, he has helped improve the restaurant's business. At this point, Jin said, "You've been standing still without taking any further steps," making Shinomiya angry, so Jin told him to taste Megumi's dish. When he tasted it, he immediately felt warmth, not understanding how someone as clumsy as Megumi could create such a warm dish, and it helped him remember his childhood, when his mother always cared for him. So, Shinomiya also placed a coin for Megumi himself. He realized Megumi used pepper to neutralize the gamey smell of the chicken liver, and she also combined it with various herbs. She explained that since the judges had eaten many dishes before, she just wanted to use this dish to help them digest, making everyone touched, because they realized Megumi was very kind-hearted. At this point, Shinomiya realized what he was missing. Suddenly, Hisako also scored Megumi, although she and Jin had no right to score, but they considered this match a draw, so Shinomiya decided to let them stay, making Megumi very happy and crying. At this moment, Megumi thanked Soma. When Megumi left, Soma blamed himself, thinking he had lost this time. When he returned to his room, everyone was worried about him, because he dared to compete with a former student. The next day, everyone was trying to overcome the third challenge. Luckily, Megumi had passed, so Soma felt relieved. But he still remembers the match he lost to Shinomiya. By evening, they had all passed the challenge, leaving the group exhausted. They thought they were about to rest soon. Suddenly, they received a gathering notice, leaving everyone clueless. Ikumi and Takumi immediately sought out Soma, because they heard he challenged former student Shinomiya to a match. At this point, Jin informed everyone that tomorrow's challenge was to prepare breakfast for the guests in this hotel, and the main ingredient was eggs. Shocking everyone, as they realized they had no time to sleep, Takumi then said he would show Soma his Italian-style eggs, but he was dragged away by his younger brother. Soma then teased Irina, because in the entrance exam, she praised Soma's egg dish as delicious, but Irina said the dish was awful and left. While everyone was worried, they all entered the kitchen to figure out how to overcome this challenge, but Irina wasn't worried at all, and decided to go back to her room, because this time she had figured out how to defeat Soma. On Soma's side, he was still thinking and experimenting with new egg dishes. Even though the egg dish was delicious, Soma felt it wasn't enough. At this point, Soma remembered his father's menu and realized he needed to do something unexpected. On Takumi's side, he had completed his egg dish, so he was very confident he would beat Soma, while Megumi was very worried, and she remembered Soma and Jin's words, so she also had an idea. While everyone was trying to cook, Soma met a girl who surprised him as he didn't know who she was. She said, "I look forward to your dish tomorrow." Suddenly, another guy appeared, and they even argued, making Soma very curious, and he realized they were fellow students like him, so they left. It turned out this girl had heard rumors about Soma, but she found Soma nothing special. The next morning, Soma was surprised, because the size of the hall was huge, so Soma went back to his place, and unexpectedly met Irina next to him, shocking Irina. But she realized this was an opportunity for Soma to see her talent. At this point, Irina asked Soma, "Are you planning to make a souffle?" So, Soma let her know, "I'm planning to make a mini souffle omelet," surprising Irina, and she walked away. At this point, the challenge had begun. Thus, many hotel guests entered the hall. It turned out that every year these guests helped evaluate the students at the training camp, but they realized, among them were 3 very intimidating guests. Even the hotel staff and chefs would evaluate them, and they had to serve over 200 meals. As the challenge began, the students immediately presented their dishes. These 2 girls were very curious about Takumi's Italian-style eggs, so he cooked for them to see, making them delighted because the dish was delicious. On Megumi's side, she met these 3 old men. Thus, she offered them to try her egg dish. Unexpectedly, her egg dish was very delicious, making the 3 old men very happy. On Ikumi's side, she was being teased by this girl because she had been abandoned by Irina. But Ikumi noticed that her dishes were all simple egg dishes, while Irina had made eggs Benedict, surprising everyone because this dish was very beautiful. So, someone tasted it and immediately realized the egg melted in their mouth, combined with the tanginess of the sauce. She even used dried mullet roe sprinkled on the dish. He felt like he wanted to kneel before the queen. On Soma's side, he also finished cooking his dish, but he realized no one has tasted his dish yet. Soma realized it was like a buffet here, because it was not like how he served in his restaurant. Unexpectedly, Irina had completed 200 servings. Irina started teasing Soma, saying the food there needed to be delicious and beautiful, while Soma's dish was terrible. On Ikumi's side, she had stopped at 150 servings, making her angry. But this girl was attracting a lot of customers. It turned out this dish wasn't raw eggs, it was salmon roe and diluted ocean water gelée. And the dish resembling boiled eggs was made with white asparagus, shallots, and whipped cream. The remaining egg dish was milkshake in an egg, which everyone found delightful. She quickly served 300 servings. Takumi and Megumi had also completed 200 servings, but they realized Soma was having trouble. With only 30 minutes left, Soma was very worried. Suddenly, he remembered his father's words, "If you encounter a panic situation, rearrange the situation, and find the first thing to do and turn it into action." While Irina thought Soma would lose, suddenly, he found a way and started acting. So, he demonstrated his egg cooking skills for a girl to watch, making her excited and try Soma's dish. Unexpectedly, it melted in her mouth and tasted delicious. So, everyone started paying attention to Soma, and people began to taste his dish. As time passed, more and more people came. Quickly, Soma served 100 servings. At this point, Soma began demonstrating his cooking skills in front of everyone, making them very interested and focused on watching him. He even attracted Irina's customers. The judges recognized Soma's cooking style as live cooking. At this point, many people have already completed 200 servings. There were only 5 minutes left. While Takumi and Megumi worried about Soma, he continued to serve everyone. Finally, Soma also completed 200 servings, just as the time ran out, which surprised Irina and this girl. The judges realized Soma could adapt to the environment. At this point, Irina had served 407 servings. Next, this girl achieved 380 servings, so she introduced herself to Soma. Her name was Alice, Irina's cousin, and Alice's goal was to defeat Irina, as they had always been rivals since childhood. Alice teased Soma for only having 200 servings, but Soma was optimistic, saying, "I've gained experience from failure." She found Soma very peculiar, so Alice left. Suddenly, the judges announced the next challenge would begin in 4 hours, so they immediately prepared for the challenge. By evening, everyone was exhausted, but they still had to refocus. Jin announced that 352 students had been eliminated, leaving 628 students remaining. This training camp had shown them the harsh reality of becoming chefs, and he said now it was the final challenge. It turned out the judges had prepared a meal to celebrate all the students completing the training camp, making everyone very happy because they had survived this training camp from hell. Soma saw everyone so joyful, which reminded him of when his father encouraged him to enroll in this academy. The next day, all the students prepared to return home, making everyone feel very relieved. At this point, Soma and Megumi met Shinomiya, who was planning to return to France to continue developing his restaurant. Even the former students came to bid farewell to Soma and Megumi. Some even offered Megumi jobs. It turned out the former students had all opened restaurants, so they wanted to pass this training camp to find talented chefs to work for them. Thus, they also invited Soma to work at the hotel, but Soma declined because he already had his own restaurant, so they left. Suddenly, Jin noticed that Soma resembled his father. As Soma was about to board the bus, he realized he had forgotten his handkerchief, so Soma hurried back to the hotel. But when Soma returned, the bus had already left. Unexpectedly, Soma met Irina. Turns out, she also forgot her things. Soma noticed Irina had her own car, so he asked for a ride with her, but Irina was very annoyed with Soma. At this point, Irina criticized Soma's statement, "Chefs gain experience from failure," as an excuse, because for her, chefs should not fail. Soma felt the atmosphere was too heavy, so he decided to take a nap. While Irina remembered, she returned to the hotel to get a book containing a photo of her with Soma's father. Jin also realized Soma was Joichiro's son. Turns out, Jin was Joichiro's classmate. On Fumio's side, she met Joichiro, making her very happy because Joichiro had returned. At this point, Soma's group also returned to Polar Star Dormitory, and Fumio greeted them. She said they could eat to their heart's content today. Unexpectedly, when they entered the kitchen, the cook was Soma's father. Fumio informed everyone that Joichiro was a former student here, and also a former second seed of the Elite 10 Council, surprising everyone. At this moment, Soma felt mentally crushed because his father had achieved great success at the academy. Satoshi realized he was a wandering chef around the world, so he finished cooking, and everyone tasted Joichiro's dish together. Unexpectedly, the food was delicious, making them excited because they got to eat dishes from different countries. But when trying the snake dish, Zenji found it too awful. It turned out, besides their delicious dishes, the father and son also had a list of terrible dishes. Knowing his father had studied with Jin surprised Soma. Turns out, they had won many food wars to expand this Polar Star Dormitory. Suddenly, Joichiro said he hadn't graduated yet, surprising them. After everyone finished eating, that evening, Joichiro recounted everything to Soma. Unexpectedly, the room Soma was staying in, 303, was previously Joichiro's room. The next morning, Joichiro told Soma to come to the kitchen. Turns out, he wanted to challenge Soma to see if he had matured, so Soma agreed to the challenge. At this point, their judge was Fumio. Unexpectedly, Satoshi and Megumi were also there, so they became judges for both of them. Fumio said the theme would be breakfast, and they could use all the ingredients in the kitchen, so the match began. Both started cooking. Megumi noticed Soma was using apples. Satoshi noticed Soma had skills like this, because he had never stopped challenging his father. Finally, Soma's dish was completed first. Turned out, Soma's dish was apple risotto. Megumi immediately smelled the sweet fragrance of the dish, so they started tasting. Megumi felt the overflowing flavor of apple in her mouth, like she was Snow White sleeping in the forest and being awakened by the Prince of Apples, while Fumio and Satoshi were also very pleased with Soma's dish. But Satoshi didn't understand why there was apple flavor in the rice and onions. It turned out, Soma had used apple juice, which helped the apple flavor spread throughout the dish. At this point, Joichiro also completed his dish. Unexpectedly, the dish he made was special rich ramen, surprising everyone, because it wasn't suitable for breakfast. This made Fumio angry, because he had always done strange things, even making a dish that no one had ever tried in a food war. So, they started tasting. Unexpectedly, it tasted delicious, making them unable to stop eating. Turned out, he had used ebi imo taro and soy milk to give the soup a creamy flavor. Fumio noticed. He also used many different ingredients, making the ramen more flavorful. And there was a piece of tempeh, a special ingredient from Indonesia, made from fermented soybeans, which they found very interesting, and they realized he had combined various cooking methods from around the world, so they immediately finished eating. Finally, everyone chose Joichiro's dish. Thus, he continued to defeat Soma. He realized his dish still couldn't compare to his father's, but Joichiro acknowledged that Soma had grown a lot, even though this was his 490th loss. They even took notes after the battle. At this point, Joichiro decided to leave. It turned out Joichiro had come here just to encourage Soma for the upcoming match, and now he had to go deal with his own matters. When everyone heard that Joichiro had left, it surprised everyone. Fumio relayed Joichiro's message to Soma, telling him to come back and reopen the restaurant occasionally. The next day, Mayumi realized Soma still hadn't returned to the restaurant, but she still remembered Soma's grilled squid tentacles dressed in peanut butter. Suddenly, Mayumi's friend scolded her for not confessing to Soma before he left. Suddenly, Soma appeared from inside the restaurant, surprising everyone. People around thought Yukihira restaurant had reopened, making them very happy, because they missed the restaurant's food. So, Soma decided to reopen the restaurant today. At this moment, Soma's restaurant is very crowded. Mayumi remembered when she first came to Soma's restaurant. She served as a judge for Soma and his father, and Mayumi realized Soma had grown up. By evening, the customers had left. Soma noticed that it was very quiet around here, so Soma's friends informed him that recently a shopping center had just opened nearby. Thus, it attracted a lot of people there, and they have a famous dish called karage. It made everyone very excited, so this neighborhood became deserted, causing Tomida's shop to be deserted as well. Soma realized they needed to do something about it. To revive this shopping district, Soma decided to create a new karage dish to attract customers back. This girl recognized it as a great opportunity to bring Soma and Mayumi together. Thus, they decided to help Soma. By evening, Soma was contemplating the recipe for the dish. Suddenly, he remembered Ikumi, so Soma called Ikumi for help. When she realized it was Soma, it made Ikumi feel embarrassed, thinking that Soma was confessing his feelings to her. So, Ikumi agreed to help Soma. The next morning, she went to Soma's restaurant. Unexpectedly, she saw Mayumi here too. Thus, Soma introduced both of them to each other, and they decided to go to the shopping center together. Upon arriving, it surprised Soma, because this place was very spacious, while Ikumi was disappointed, because she thought they would have privacy. Mayumi noticed Ikumi's figure resembled a model. Ikumi thinks Mayumi is the type of person Soma likes. They have arrived at the karage shop. Ikumi immediately recognizes this as a very famous chain of stores. Soma notices that the customers here are plentiful. Suddenly, he spots Tomita. Turns out, he's here for investigation too. Unexpectedly, they are spotted by the store manager. She recognizes them as the local shopping district folks, so she offers them a taste of karage. Surprisingly, it tastes really good, and she mentions it has many secret spices. So, it's considered the greatest karage in the world. Then Soma says, "I'll make a better karage," which angers the manager, and she doubts they can make a better karage. Thus, Soma heads back to the restaurant to think of a karage recipe, asking Ikumi for advice on the meat. So, Soma completes the karage dish. When Mayumi tastes it, she finds Soma's karage very delicious. But, Soma realizes it still loses to Mozuya's karage, because they've combined many different spices, and it took many years of research to create such a karage dish. Suddenly, Ikumi suggests, "Why don't you try using A5 beef? It's a high-quality meat," but Soma finds it too expensive. Turns out, this beef is produced by Ikumi's family company, so she promises to give him a discount, but it's still too expensive for him. Thus, Soma has to think of another way. On the manager's side, she's recounting everything to the consultant. She still doesn't believe Soma can make a better karage, but the consultant advises her to keep an eye on them. At this point, Soma has experimented many times, but he still hasn't surpassed that shop's karage. Suddenly, Ikumi notices many students dispersing, so Soma realizes these are their customers. That night, Soma begins to explain to everyone. He realizes karage is often bought to take away, so customers can't walk and eat at the shopping center. But in this shopping street, they can comfortably eat and drink, because hot karage is the best, and there are many schools nearby, so students will love karage. Upon hearing Soma's idea, immediately excited Tomita, on the karage shop side, their business is still going smoothly, so the manager looks down on Soma even more. On Soma's side, they recycled milk cartons to contain the karage. When Mayumi tastes it, she finds it delicious. But Mayumi still feels it's not as good as that shop's karaage. Suddenly, Soma remembers. He has a notebook with homemade recipe notes from when he was young. So, he immediately goes to get it. At this point, only Mayumi and Ikumi are left. Thus, they don't know what to say to each other. Mayumi suddenly realizes Ikumi likes Soma. As she's about to say something, suddenly, Soma accidentally spills the notebooks on Ikumi. So, they continue experimenting. Mayumi feels this time it's better. Turns out, Ikumi used thigh meat to make the karaage crispier. Next, they have to make the sauce. So, Mayumi goes to buy ingredients to help them. For Soma and Ikumi to prepare, as they're about to taste, Tomita rushes in. He brings them a new dish. It turns out to be rice balls combined with karaage, but they find Tomita's dish too ordinary. Suddenly, Soma comes up with a new idea. He's confident they'll win this time, so that night, the whole group acts together. Tomita and Mayumi make advertising flyers. Ikumi prepares the meat, while Soma cooks up a new karaage. The next day, the manager sees students holding a strange karaage dish, and in the following days, she notices everyone continuously eating this karaage. The staff reports a 20% decrease in revenue over the past 2 days, so she rushes to the shopping district to see. Surprisingly, it's very crowded here. While everyone keeps buying Soma's karaage, turns out, he has created a new spice blend, helping the chicken in karaage become very fragrant. Then, he rolled the karaage with vegetables, helping Soma's dish look very appealing, making everyone unable to resist and eat it. While the manager is worrying, unexpectedly, she's discovered by Soma. Knowing Soma only took 3 days to prepare, it surprises her. At this point, the shopping street has become bustling again. The manager realizes she underestimated Soma, so Soma also gives her a taste of his karaage. She immediately recognizes the outer layer of karaage as Vietnamese pancakes. It's a type of rice flour combined with coconut milk, very delicious. When eating it, she feels like she's back in her school days. So, Soma wins. At this point, Soma thanks Ikumi. Mayumi thinks she's about to break up with Soma. Suddenly, he suggests Mayumi continue working here, because Tomita alone can't handle it. It turns out, since studying with Mayumi, Soma realized she was a responsible person, making her very happy that Soma noticed her. So, Mayumi agrees. On the Elite 10 Council side, they've gathered again, to select students to participate in the autumn elections. But, Irina opposes Soma, while Satoshi believes Soma deserves to be chosen. Unexpectedly, one member of the Elite 10 Council finds Soma very interesting. So, he also agrees to let Soma participate. The next morning, all the students gathered again, to see if they're listed in the autumn elections. Unexpectedly, Soma's group is all on the list. Takumi immediately challenges Soma, but he doesn't care. At this point, the MC announced the rules of the autumn elections. 60 chosen individuals will be divided into 2 teams, and they'll compete until the finals, making everyone excited. So, Alice tells Soma that the autumn elections are overseen by the Elite 10 Council, while Megumi is worrying, because the participants in the autumn elections are all very skilled. When Megumi is being badmouthed by these two, suddenly, a girl defends Megumi, and drives those two away. She introduces herself as Miyoko. Unexpectedly, she likes Megumi, because Megumi fought against Shinomiya, making Megumi feel embarrassed. And she says it's all thanks to Soma's efforts. So, it made her disappointed and leave, because she thought Megumi was a weak person. At this point, Alice is still informing everyone that the Elite 10 Council is chosen from the autumn elections. Alice is eagerly looking forward to seeing Soma compete against Irina, to win a seat in the Elite 10 Council. So that night, Soma starts sharpening his knife, and remembers his promise not to lose to his father, which excites Soma. The next morning, they received a letter from the autumn elections, saying their theme will be curry. So, they began discussing this topic. Soma remembers his father once mentioned, there was someone in this dorm named Shiomi who loved making curry, and now she's a teacher. So, Soma seeks out Shiomi's address, seeing the house in ruins, surprising them. When they enter, they see a girl, immediately making her flustered because there were customers again today. But, Soma sees her resembling a student. When she learns he's Joichiro's son, she immediately hits and kicks him out. Suddenly, a young man appears, who doesn't understand what's happening. At this point, Shiomi recalls when she first entered the Polar Star dormitory. She met Jin and Joichiro. So, Joichiro welcomed her with his new dish. Unexpectedly, that dish turned out to be awful, which is why she dislikes Joichiro. Now, they ask Shiomi to guide them in making curry, but she didn't want to instruct Soma. Akira, Shiomi's assistant, tells them Shiomi's temperament is peculiar, and he scolds her for forgetting to water the plants, making him do everything. So, he shows them the curry spices. Megumi recognizes it as curry leaves, and they dry up in winter. So, usually curry leaves are dried. Turns out, Shiomi designed this place to store curry spices. At this point, Akira cooked traditional Indian curry for them to see. So, Soma tasted it. He felt many flavors melting in his mouth. Akira explains, using fresh curry leaves gives a fragrance 10 times stronger than dried ones. So, he let them try various curry dishes, which surprised them, because just by changing the ingredients a little, curry can have different flavors. In the end, he cooked curry with just water, without adding any other ingredients, but it can still enhance the spiciness of the curry, making Megumi feel like she's been hit by a love arrow. Soma realizes Akira doesn't look while cooking, but he senses everything through smell. Turns out, Shiomi focuses on research, while Akira handles the cooking. At this point, Soma realizes Akira is also participating in the autumn elections. Akira has been observing Soma for a while, because he's famous among the students, and Akira says he will definitely secure the #1 spot in this academy. Soma realizes it's a declaration of war, so he decides to use curry to compete against Akira in the autumn elections, surprising Akira. But Akira says, "You won't stand a chance against my curry." When they return, Megumi realizes she can't beat Akira, because the autumn elections will start in just 1 month, which makes her very worried. So, Soma tells Megumi, since he was little, Soma's father always cooked him new dishes from the restaurant, which put a lot of pressure on him. So, Soma comforts Megumi, just persevere, and they can overcome it. While everyone is researching and cooking curry, they realize there are up to 40 types of spices in curry, making Megumi very overwhelmed, not knowing which ones to choose and combine. On Soma's side, he's also researching spices. Ikumi wants to use her special meat to create a delicious curry. Miyoko is trying her best to cook, because before that, she was in a restaurant that looked down on women. But when Miyoko cooks better than the head chef, she proves her skills, and she hates men. Now, Miyoko is determined to win the first seat of the Elite 10 Council. At this point, it's still summer vacation, so everyone has spent time in their hometowns, except Soma, who stayed at the dorm. On the other side, there's a girl who's a hardcore fan of Arena, and she hates Hisako, who's always by Arena's side. At this point, Satoshi sees Soma still trying to research curry spices, making him happy that Soma has made progress. Unexpectedly, Soma is exhausted and falls asleep. Very soon, the autumn elections arrive, so all the participants gathered in the auditorium. Soma's group also assembled. Alice came to tease Soma, and said Ryo will be in the same group as him. Soma noticed he tied his headband like him. Suddenly, Akira also arrived. He noticed Soma was prepared for the competition. At this point, Takumi arrived to challenge Soma, but he was surprised because Isami had lost weight. Turns out, he lost weight due to the summer heat. Suddenly, the principal appeared to make a speech. He said this auditorium is a place to honor the former Elite 10 Council members. Soma also saw pictures of Jin and Shinomiya, and the autumn elections matches will begin here. The rule for the first match is that 60 people will be divided into 2 groups, A and B, but the students in one group will compete against each other until 4 people are selected. Soma is in Group A, so the competition began. While everyone was trying to cook, Natsumi arrived. She's known as the Curry Queen. Everyone realized the judges of the autumn elections are all famous. At this point, all the students are showcasing their cooking skills, making everyone very excited, while Takumi and Isami are cooking Italian-style curry. Alice prepared many modern gadgets. This girl cooked a black sauce, making everyone frightened. Miyoko was cooking curry in Chinese style, while Ikumi was using ingredients to eliminate the smell of meat. Suddenly, she noticed Ryo was moving very slowly, but when he tied the cloth around his head, he transformed into a different person. At this moment, Akira was cooking his special curry, and the fragrance filled the entire auditorium. While everyone was showcasing their skills, Soma fell asleep, leaving them puzzled about what he was doing. Suddenly, his curry emitted a pleasant aroma. Soma woke up, and everyone realized he was cooking rice. Akira noticed he was mixing a blend of apples, bananas, and carrots, but he felt Soma was hiding something. At this point, Soma said, "My cooking show has just begun." On the B board, Megumi was still trying to cook. Suddenly, she bumped into Miyoko, but she still underestimated Megumi, so she continued to demonstrate her cooking skills, while Takumi and Isami were cooking Italian-style curry. Megumi was still clumsy, making everyone look down on her. Suddenly, Megumi brought out a large fish hanging upside down. Everyone realized she wanted to cut the meat from this fish, so Megumi began to cut the fish. It turned out that since she was young, Megumi had been taught how to cut fish by fishermen in the village. At this point, everyone saw Megumi's knife skills, which surprised them. Megumi quickly divided the fish into many parts, so everyone began to change their thoughts about Megumi. At this point, the competition time was almost up. Thus, everyone had finished their dishes. The students started serving their dishes to the 5 judges. The first person, despite receiving a lot of praise from the judges, only scored 33 out of 100 points. So, everyone realized that the judges were scoring very strictly, because they were all famous food critics. Many students couldn't even pass 40 points. Next was Nao's dish, which made the whole auditorium uncomfortable, because its smell was too terrible. While the judges identified the ingredients in this dish, even though they didn't want to eat it, they still had to taste it. Unexpectedly, its taste was very delicious. They realized that although it had many fermented ingredients and a terrible smell, it helped enhance the flavor of the dish, which delighted the judges. They kept eating Nao's dish, and she was revealed to be an expert in using strong-smelling ingredients, nicknamed the Boiling Witch. Even though the smell and taste of this curry dish were terrible, they couldn't stop eating it, so she scored 84 points, which surprised everyone. Next was Hisako's dish, which intrigued Nao. Wanting to witness Hisako's failure, it turns out that 2 years ago, Hisako and Nao competed against each other to vie for Arena's management position. As a die-hard fan of Arena, Nao always kept an eye on her, which made Hisako uncomfortable, so she presented her dish to the judges for tasting. They noticed that Hisako had used ordinary lamb meat and spices to eliminate its odor. When one of the judges tasted it, it immediately energized his body. He realized that Hisako had combined various herbs to create a medicine that revived the dying. It turns out Hisako was an expert in cooking with herbs. At this point, the judges kept eating Hisako's dish, which filled their bodies with energy. They even forgot the taste of Nao's previous curry dish, which shocked her. So, Hisako also let Nao taste her curry dish, and unexpectedly, it purified her body. It turns out Hisako's family specialized in herbal medicine research, and she served Arena as her queen. Surprisingly, the judges scored Hisako 92 points, so she was ranked first. Now, it was Miyoko's turn. Her curry dish scored 87 points, and Miyoko was ranked second because her dish was prepared in the Chinese style, and it's stuffed inside the pineapple before being put into the oven. So, the flavor of pineapple infused into the rice, making them feel like they were being hit by martial arts. While Megumi was worrying, on Soma's side in Block A, there was a lot of tension because someone received 0 points. In Block B, Megumi's friend Yoshino scored 86 points, and she was ranked third, making the judges very pleased because Yoshino's dish was made with duck meat, and the curry sauce was made from oranges, helping to eliminate the duck's odor. Fumio noticed Yoshino's innocence was charming everyone. Next was Isami's turn. His dish was curry bread calzone, with the filling inside pizza dough. They realized it was an Italian-style dish. As soon as they tasted it, the tomato sauce flooded their mouths. It turns out he cooked the tomatoes and added curry spices, and his dough was combined with grape must, which delighted the judges, and they gave him 87 points. So, Isami tied for second place with Miyoko. Next up was Takumi. His dish was also an Italian-style curry. As soon as one of the judges tasted it, he was shocked and immediately recognized the spices in this curry. They imagined themselves in an olive oil pond. Takumi told them to look inside the noodles. It turns out the pasta filling he made was from turmeric and cheese, which made them really like Takumi's dish, while Isami was watching Takumi, because Takumi was always better than him, and Isami always got scolded by his father. But Takumi comforted him. Takumi said the two-handed kitchen knife is like a half moon. When the two pieces are put together, then it will be complete, just like the two cousins. So from there, the two cousins tried to develop the restaurant together. But Isami had to admit, his older brother was always better than him. At this point, the judges gave Takumi 90 points, so he secured second place. Next up was Alice's dish, which immediately surprised the judges because her dish was very beautiful, but people realized it didn't look like curry. Alice said that this dish was indeed curry, so the judges tasted it. Unexpectedly, it made them freeze in place because they realized the curry sauce was made like ice cream, and it melted right on their tongues. They couldn't even recognize the ingredients of this dish. So, Alice explained to them how she prepared it, which shocked the judges, because this dish was too delicious. They imagined Alice as a scientist. So, Alice got 95 points, and she secured first place. Now, only Megumi was left, making her anxious. The judges didn't expect much from Megumi. Suddenly, Megumi saw the villagers coming to cheer for her, which helped Megumi regain her confidence. So, she presented her dish to the judges to taste. They realized it was a hot pot dish, but when they tasted it, they found it very delicious, and could feel the flavor of curry inside the dish. There were even many types of fish inside this dish, Megumi explained, because the smell of curry was strong. So, she used fish guts to reduce the smell of curry, and the judges could feel the taste of her homeland. Megumi remembered before, she always got low scores in the academy, but she still had to keep trying for the people in the village. Unexpectedly, Megumi got 88 points, and she secured fourth place, making the people in Megumi's village very happy. On Soma's side in Group A, there were many students judged 0 by Natsumi. Now, it was Ryo's turn. Seeing his seafood curry dish surprised the judges. When Natsumi tasted it, she felt like she was in a forest. Seeing Natsumi enjoy Ryo's dish enthusiastically, making everyone surprised. She recognized the sauce Ryo used as a famous French brandy called cognac, so they felt like they were in a forest. Soma realized there was still something missing in this dish. When they were about to score, Ryo stopped them. He then took out small tubes of cognac drops, saying the best part of the shrimp was the shrimp brain, and told the judges to suck out the shrimp brain, but Natsumi refused, because eating like that is too impolite. However, Ryo noticed she was craving for it, so Natsumi couldn't resist either. The judges then dropped cognac on the shrimp heads, and they ate in a frenzy, making Natsumi feel like she was flying into space. So, Ryo got 93 points, surprising everyone, and he declared war with the others. Now, it was Ikumi's turn. She showed them her pork curry dish, which intrigued the judges, because Ikumi's dish was very enticing. Seeing the beautiful and glossy pieces of meat made everyone crave for it. Even Natsumi couldn't resist, so she tried it, unexpectedly. The meat was very tender and juicy. Turns out, Ikumi used a lot of ingredients to marinate the meat. She even added spices into the rice. Seeing the judges unable to stop eating, it surprised everyone, as if Ikumi had become their commander. So, Ikumi got 86 points, and she was currently in second place. Soma praised her, making Ikumi feel shy. Now, it was Sakari's turn, but her dish was very simple when the judges tasted it, so they felt very sticky and tasty in their mouths. Sakari explained it was fermented soybeans. She used fire and charcoal to enhance the flavor of the fermented soybeans, and she revealed that malt soy sauce was also inside this dish, which helped make the curry sticky and flavorful. The judges found it delightful, and they gave Sakari 86 points, so she secured second place. Soma congratulated Sakari. Next up was Zenji. Unexpectedly, his curry dish turned out to be udon noodles. The judges noticed that Zenji's dish was the opposite of Ryo's. When they tasted it, they couldn't help but keep eating without saying anything. It turned out the cheese on top of the noodles was combined with curry sauce. Natsumi also sensed many curry flavors in the bowl of noodles, which delighted her. Turns out Zenji had read a lot of books about spices, so he was nicknamed the Walking Flavor Dictionary. Unexpectedly, Zenji got 88 points and secured second place. Suddenly, the whole hall smelled very fragrant. It turned out to be Ibusaki's curry dish. When they tasted it, they could feel many spices creating the aroma. Even the egg was very fragrant and solidified. When they didn't understand what created the special fragrance for the special smoked curry, Zenji explained. He had used seaweed salt block. Turns out Zenji's nickname is Prince of Smoke. So, Zenji got 88 points, making everyone very happy, because the Polar Star dormitory had 3 people in the top 5. Now, only Akira and Soma were left. So, Akira showed the judges his dish, surprising them, because this dish didn't look like curry. Suddenly, Akira handed Soma a spoon, and asked him to see inside this pie curry dish. Unexpectedly, the fragrance emanated like a bomb. He recognized the curry inside, making everyone in the hall could smell its strong fragrance. The judges realized this was a high-end curry dish, so they tasted it. Unexpectedly, it was very delicious. Zenji realized this was the technique of a famous French chef. Helps retain the fragrance of the curry inside, and it will explode when opened. The judges immediately recognized the flavor of this pie curry dish, not only with lime leaves and lemongrass, but also with fresh holy basil, a spice with a very sweet aroma. But Natsumi said this spice is very difficult to find. It turns out Shiomi had researched and grown it. Now, Soma also tasted the pie curry dish. He realized this dish not only had aroma, but also had yogurt, surprising everyone, because he combined fresh holy basil and yogurt. So, Natsumi immediately wanted Akira on her team, and promised to pay him a lot of money, but he said, "I fight for Shiomi," making her like him even more. While the judges were enjoying eating all of the pie curry, so they gave him 94 points. Akira secured first place, making everyone surprised, because there were even 2 judges giving Akira 20 points. Finally, it was Soma's turn. Seeing Soma very confident made Akira puzzled, because just a month ago Soma didn't know anything about the basic spices of curry. So, Soma showed everyone his dish, surprising everyone, because this dish resembled fried eggs. Soma said, "Now I will give everyone the second flavor bomb." Suddenly, a very strong aroma emanated from inside the dish, surprising the entire hall. Akira recognized that Soma had a similar idea to his own. Ikumi noticed the risotto rice inside was flowing out, so they began to taste Soma's curry risotto omurice. Unexpectedly, they felt like being punched by Soma. The judges sensed the rich flavor of fish bones and beef tendons, even blending with the egg. Natsumi recognized that his sauce was very special, combining oyster sauce and honey. The aroma of the dish kept bursting out, while Akira realized Soma had combined many curry spices, but the most special one was mango, surprising the judges. It turns out Soma had created a mango blend beforehand, giving his dish depth of flavor. Satoshi realized that Soma had learned from his defeat against his father, and he had combined the 2 dishes together. Now, Irina remembered Soma's words, "I learned from failure," while the judges felt like Soma and Akira were fiercely battling each other. because they found it difficult to choose the winner. Finally, they made a decision and gave Soma 93 points, so he secured second place, losing to Akira by just 1 point. While everyone thought Soma wouldn't be able to surpass Akira, Ikumi realized there were even 3 judges giving Soma 19 points, while Akira only got 20 points from 2 judges, so the score was 3-2. According to the rules of Food War, Soma won. The judges argued, one saying Soma's dish was better, while the other insisted Akira's was superior. So, they immediately started fighting. At this moment, everyone was eagerly awaiting the final showdown of both. After the competition ended, that night, Soma's group celebrated, as they had advanced past the preliminaries of the autumn elections. Meanwhile, Takumi continued to challenge Soma, to see who would be the best in the academy. On Arena's side, she was still reminiscing about the aroma from Soma's dish, feeling like there were many Somas surrounding her. While Soma was contemplating, suddenly, Megumi came to talk to him, and she thanked Soma for helping her avoid expulsion before. Seeing the two chatting happily together, Ikumi became very curious. Soma realized Akira's curry was very delicious, so he wanted to become even stronger, and everyone enjoyed the feast together. At this moment, Megumi is very anxious, because the next competition is approaching. So, Soma and Megumi, along with 8 other contestants, they went to the office of the Elite 10 Council to hear them explain about the next match. At this point, Satoshi informed Soma that the second round competition would be making bento boxes, which surprised him because the second round was to cook such a simple dish. But Arena quickly said, bento is a unique Japanese dish. It has even been included in the French dictionary. However, Soma wasn't interested in what she said, which immediately irritated Arena. Suddenly, Etsuya said to Soma, "Show me your determination to win." The next day, the match began. Everyone gathered at the arena to watch Soma's first match. Unexpectedly, his opponent turned out to be Alice, making everyone excited, because she is the granddaughter of the principal, and Alice is famous for her molecular gastronomy cooking style, making everyone delighted, not knowing how Soma will defeat Alice. While Alice is teasing Soma, because she believes that Soma's cooking technique is outdated, and cannot surpass her modern cooking technique. But Soma feels sleepy. It turns out, he didn't sleep last night to prepare the ingredients. Soma immediately declared, "Today I will defeat you," making Alice excited. So, the match began, and Alice started cooking. Even she used modern scientific equipment for processing, causing everyone to be surprised. At this moment, Soma was also cooking. He saw Alice cutting the fish. So, Soma teased her as well, because she also used manual cooking techniques. While everyone was curious, they didn't know what Soma would do to beat Alice. Now, Alice had finished her dish, so she brought it up for the judges to taste, making everyone curious. Not knowing what she cooked, when Alice opened her dish, it immediately surprised everyone, because Alice's dish was a bento sushi box. The principal noticed, the fog inside the dish is nitrogen. Alice instructed the judges to eat in order from the upper right corner. The first piece was abalone sushi with espuma, leaving everyone puzzled. Why did Alice combine abalone and seaweed? The second piece is cured bonito sushi, immediately impressing the judges. Alice explained that the previous combination of bonito and seaweed had helped enhance the dish's flavor, and if they eat this dish in order, they will feel the greatness of this bento combination. Next is the cured beef sushi piece. As the judges took a bite, they immediately found it delightful, and feel all the meat components in their mouths. It turns out she also used tomatoes. Alice put the tomatoes in a centrifuge to break down the substances in the tomatoes, and then added it to the sushi, making the judges surprised. At this point, they had eaten the last dish, which was a piece of sea bream chazuk. As the judges took a bite, they immediately felt the explosive flavor of the dish inside their mouths. The principal felt like Alice was cooking at a high-end restaurant, which immediately pleased him, while everyone else was surprised, because of Alice's cooking talent. Soma had also completed his dish, surprising everyone, as he cooked the nori bento dish. But, Soma kept his dish in a thermal container. Soma dish was divided into 3 tiers. The first tier consisted of side dishes, the second tier contained rice, and the bottom tier was soup. While Alice remained confident of her victory, the judges began to taste Soma's dish. Surprisingly, they found it very delicious. It turned out to be fried cod side. Sakari explained that Soma used beer to help make the dish lighter and crispier. The judges realized Soma had skillfully prepared this snowfish dish. As they tasted it, they felt like they were in the middle of a grassy field. The principal recognized this. He also used dried bonito and seaweed, helping the dish become more savory. Finally, the soup dish. As the judges tasted it, they were delighted, feeling like they were harmonizing with nature. At this point, Alice was also surprised by Soma's dish, but she said that wasn't enough to win. So, Soma told Alice that there used to be an old lady who always came to his restaurant, but after a while, she had back pain and couldn't come anymore. Thus, Soma cooked a bento for her, and that day, Soma realized what he wanted to put in the bento box. Suddenly, the judges were very surprised, because underneath the main dish was the nori bento. As they took a bite, they immediately felt the salmon roe bursting inside their mouths, which they found very delightful. Alice realized that Soma had also used molecular gastronomy to cook this dish. It turns out that when Soma was young, he learned to make inexpensive candy, so it helped him create the nori granules. Suddenly, this judge discovered that there were still dried bonito inside, making him feel like Soma's dish was a treasure trove. While Alice remained very confident, so Soma suggested sprinkling soup over his dish. Surprisingly, this made the judges even more delighted. But Alice still looked down on Soma's bento dish. Suddenly, the principal said, "Soma's dish is very special, because he paid attention to using the box to keep the dish warm. That's what bento is all about." So, Soma also let Alice try his dish. Surprisingly, it made her keep eating, making her feel very warm. Finally, the principal announced, "The winner is Soma," making everyone very happy, while Alice was sad for losing. So, Soma comforted her, and he declared that next time he would defeat the Elite 10 Council, which made Alice angry. She was determined to win against Soma next time. As Soma went inside, Megumi immediately congratulated him. But the next match is Megumi's, making her very worried. So, Soma immediately cheered for Megumi. On Alice's side, she met Ryo. He praised Alice's dish as beautiful, but Alice realized he was teasing her. It turned out that in the next match, Megumi's opponent was indeed Ryo, which excited everyone, and the theme for both was ramen noodles. So, the match began. It turned out that the day before, Satoshi had informed both of them of their themes. Seeing Ryo very confident made Megumi worried, so she went back to learn how to cook ramen noodles. The first step was Megumi thinking about how to cook the soup broth. Next was choosing noodles with high elasticity. She realizes she wants to win against Ryo. Megumi had to create a very rich flavor. Unexpectedly, she continued to fail, even though she tried many types of soup broth, but couldn't blend them together. Suddenly, Fumio brought a box from her hometown for her. Megumi realized this box was sent by her mother to cheer her up for the next round. Megumi saw many ingredients from her hometown, which helped her come up with a way to cook the soup. Back to the competition. Both were still trying to cook their own ramen noodles. The judges realized that to cook delicious noodles, they needed to focus on 3 factors: the soup broth, the noodles, and the toppings. Everyone saw Ryo using seafood to cook his noodles, and they remembered the last time he used seafood to cook curry, which helped Ryo score very high. Suddenly, the judges caught the scent of Ryo's soup, and they were very pleased. As for Megumi, she used dried scallops to cook her soup. Soma's team realized that Megumi also used seafood to cook her ramen, but her soup broth was more elegant than Ryo's. Suddenly, Alice told Soma's team that Ryo is also from a coastal area like Megumi. Seeing him cut the shrimp shells surprised everyone. Not understanding why he was crushing shrimp shells, Alice told everyone that since he was young, Ryo had been a chef at a seafood restaurant, but everyone still trusted her to cheer for Megumi, which made her blush. Knowing they were friends of Megumi's made Ryo uncomfortable. He believed that close-knit chefs were meaningless, because the culinary world is a battlefield, where chefs clash to claim victory. But Megumi said, "You're wrong," because she believed that cooking meant people had to cooperate with each other. So, Megumi was determined to prove it to him, and she immediately went back to cooking. Seeing Megumi's clear and sparkling soup broth, surprising everyone, the judges suddenly focused on Megumi's station, because they were curious about the ingredients she used to cook the soup broth. Unexpectedly, Ryo had reached the stage of preparing the noodles. At this point, Alice remembered the time she met Ryo at his restaurant. As he tied the headband around his forehead, Ryo seemed to transform into a different person, and he was ready to serve the customers, making everyone enjoy his dish. At this point, Ryo's ramen dish was complete, so he immediately offered the judges a taste, making them feel all the flavors blend together perfectly. Even the noodles were delicious, making one judge almost faint when he tried a piece of rusk biscuit. So, he immediately recognized that this rusk was made from the crushed shrimp shells he used. Alice explained that Ryo had utilized every part of the shrimp in this ramen dish, which intensified its flavor and richness. The headmaster feels like he's battling Ryo, causing him to become bare-chested. It turns out that every time the headmaster undressed, it signified his extreme satisfaction with the dish. Now it was Megumi's turn. Seeing Megumi's harmonious and delicate dish made the judges curious to taste. Surprisingly, they found its flavor to be intense. The judges realized this dish by Megumi is Kozuyu chicken soy sauce ramen. She combined many traditional spices from her hometown, surprising everyone, because there was still one delicious ingredient they didn't know about. Megumi revealed it was dried vegetables. She used dried vegetables to create a special flavor that makes the judges unable to stop eating. At this point, Megumi mentioned there was still another type of sauce. When she added the sauce to the ramen, the judges immediately tasted the sourness. It turned out Megumi used chicken, onion, perilla leaves, and dried plums to create this sour sauce. The judges were intrigued by Megumi's creation. Suddenly, Ryo also tasted Megumi's dish. Everyone felt like Megumi was bravely battling Ryo, so Megumi also tasted Ryo's dish. It makes her feel very delicious. Now, the judges were conflicted, feeling like they were witnessing a fierce battle between them. Finally, the results were announced. It left everyone curious, unsure of who would emerge victorious. Unexpectedly, the winner was Ryo. Although Megumi didn't win, but she feels very light. Suddenly, everyone began applauding and praising Megumi, which took her by surprise. The headmaster felt that Megumi had great potential, because his underwear had come loose without him knowing. The next day, the third match began, but no one could see Soma anywhere. Turns out, Soma had fallen asleep. At this moment, Soma is walking toward the arena. Suddenly, he encountered a big guy. Soma realizes he had encountered him during the preliminaries. He introduced himself as Subaru, and he also made it into the top 8. Just like Soma, on the arena side, the battle had begun. Turns out, this match is between Akira and Hisako. Everyone recognized both of them as spice masters. Their test is to cook hamburgers. Akira has prepared a large piece of doner kebab meat. People recognized it as a Turkish dish, which is both roasted and grilled meat. On Hisako's side, she prepared a soft-shelled turtle. After processing the soft-shelled turtle, Hisako poured alcohol inside the soft-shelled turtle to help coagulate the blood of the soft-shelled turtle. Next, she added a lot of herbs into the pot. Everyone noticed she had made the broth more flavorful. On Megumi's side, she found Soma because he needed to observe his opponent's match, but they got lost on the way. Luckily, they encountered Takumi, so he led the whole group to a room to watch the match on TV. At this point, Hisako had minced the soft-shelled turtle meat and mixed it with ground pork. Then, she grilled it. Meanwhile, Arina still had full confidence in Hisako. Since childhood, Hisako had always followed Arina. Finally, Hisako's soft-shelled turtle hamburger was completed. As the judges took their first bite, they immediately feel the elasticity of the hamburger. Even the soft-shelled turtle meat inside was tender and melted in the mouth. Hisako's sauce also blended perfectly with the meat. Hisako explained she used the blood of the soft-shelled turtle, combined with finely ground dried soft-shelled turtle spleen, which was a traditional Chinese remedy. As the headmaster took a taste, he felt like a superhero, surprising everyone, because the judges loved Hisako's dish. Suddenly, a strong aroma spread throughout the arena. It turned out Akira had completed his hamburger dish, making the judges eager to taste Akira's hamburger. As they took a bite, they realized they had finished the hamburger without noticing. The headmaster realized he had used pita bread, a Middle Eastern bread baked at high temperatures. The headmaster also noticed Akira had used yogurt to neutralize the meat's smell and combined it with enhancing spices. The meat patty was a Turkish variety. While Hisako was surprised, Akira explained to her that there are 4 important elements in a hamburger: the bun, meat filling, sauce, and pickles. It turns out the pickles he chose were achar. It's made from vegetables and fruits soaked in mustard oil and combined with a lot of stimulating spices. So, Akira's hamburger made the judges crave for it. Thus, Akira won, making Hisako unable to believe she lost. At this point, she felt very embarrassed in front of Arina. On Soma's side, they received the announcement that the next match was about to begin. So, Takumi immediately challenged Soma. He said, "I will defeat you in this competition," which made Soma very excited, and he accepted Takumi's challenge. At this moment, Etsuya told Soma, Takumi's opponent is Subaru. While Subaru is provoking Takumi, he says Takumi's dish is just garbage. Subaru even mocks Isami, Takumi's younger brother, making Takumi furious. At this point, the next match has begun. To everyone's surprise, the MC announces that this is a food war match, leaving everyone astonished. Now, Takumi and Subaru have stepped onto the stage, while Subaru is still humiliating Takumi's younger brother. So, Takumi was determined to defeat him. "If I win, you have to kneel down and apologize to my younger brother." At this point, everyone realized that Subaru had investigated everything about Takumi, as he wouldn't hesitate to use any means to win, and Subaru had won 99 food war matches. The theme of this match is to make semi-Fredo. Suddenly, Megumi realized the ingredients for both are the same. It turns out Subaru had been following Takumi all along, to know what he would do in the match. Soma's team realized Subaru wants to defeat Takumi with his own dish, and when he wins, Subaru will take Takumi's important kitchen knife. At this moment, seeing Takumi being very calm and whisking the eggs delicately, even though Subaru is rough and crude, but he also whisks the eggs very delicately. He even separates the egg yolks and egg whites, while Takumi mixes them together. It turns out, Subaru always adds some steps to his opponent's recipe. He is confident his flour beating technique will absorb syrup better. Suddenly, he takes out a bottle of alcohol, surprising Takumi. It's a sweet liqueur made from Italian lemons. because he guessed Takumi would use this type of liqueur for his dessert, and he would use Takumi's own recipe to defeat him. Seeing Subaru so cunning made everyone very uncomfortable, while Isami was very worried for his older brother because he realized Takumi doesn't have time to change the recipe anymore. Suddenly, Takumi put the cake into the oven, surprising everyone. No one knows how he plans to win this match. When both take out their cakes, people see that Subaru's cake has a darker color. It turns out, he replaced flour with almond flour, which would make the cake more fragrant and flavorful. Seeing Takumi worrying makes Subaru very confident. Suddenly, Takumi remembered when he learned cooking with his brother in Italy, so he regained his composure and determined to win this match. Finally, Subaru's semi-Freddo cake was completed. The judges noticed that Subaru's cake has 3 layers. The first layer is almond, the second layer is cream, and finally, there's frozen fresh cream. When they tasted it, they immediately sensed the taste of lemon and the aroma of almonds in their mouths, which surprised them because Subaru copied someone else's recipe, but could still make a delicious cake. At this point, Takumi also presents his cake. Everyone notices Takumi's semi-Freddo cake has up to 4 layers. When the judges tasted it, they immediately felt the intense lemon flavor. They didn't know what Takumi's 4th layer was, so Takumi explained that it was lemon curd from England. It turns out he used the remaining ingredients along with olive oil to make this lemon curd layer, which surprised everyone because he adjusted the cake from Italian style to British style. Isami remembered. Their father gave them 2 bottles of olive oil before they went to Japan. Suddenly, Subaru laughs loudly because he added salted lemon to his cake. So, he's certain his cake is better than Takumi's because salted lemon will enhance the flavor of the semi-Freddo cake. It turns out he also anticipated Takumi would use olive oil to make lemon curd. In the end, Subaru won, and he got Takumi Mezzaluna knife. By evening, Soma's team was very angry because Takumi lost to Subaru. Suddenly, Subaru came to see Soma. He informed Soma he will be Soma's opponent in the semifinals, so he proposed a food war match with Soma. If he wins, he'll take Soma's knife. In exchange, he'll bet Takumi's Mezzaluna knife. Subaru thinks this will make Soma angry. Surprisingly, he remained very calm and said, "You're pitiful because you've never known the effort to create a dish like Takumi's, so you won't know the true joy of cooking." At this point, Soma agreed to the food war match. If Soma wins, then Subaru has to give Soma all 99 knives he has stolen. And if Soma loses, he will give up being a chef, which surprised Subaru and everyone listening outside. Even Soma revealed that in the second round, he will cook a beef stew dish. So, Ikumi immediately rushed in to cover Soma's mouth because he revealed the dish to his opponent again. But Soma said, "I will definitely defeat you," which made Subaru very excited. On Hisako's side, she had left because she lost, so Hisako felt unworthy to be beside Arina. On Soma's side, he met a young man. Suddenly, Soma grabbed him, thinking he was Subaru's spy. It turns out his name is Mitsuru from the journalism club. Mitsuru came here to interview Soma, but Soma refused him. Surprisingly, Mitsuru didn't give up and continuously tried to persuade Soma, so Soma agreed to let him interview him. When Mitsuru found out that Soma would choose beef stew for the next match, he was very excited, so Soma started cooking the beef stew for Mitsuru to see. First, he fried the meat, then simmered it with broth until the meat became tender. Mitsuru smelled the delicious aroma of the meat. It turns out Soma had added a lot of spices. Finally, Soma's dish was completed, so Mitsuru took photos and tasted it. He felt the tender beef in his mouth, which made him very delighted, but Mitsuru didn't feel the sourness of the beef stew. It turns out Soma used this special sauce to balance the sourness of the beef stew, because this is the first dish of Soma's that his father acknowledges. Mitsuru thought Soma would easily defeat Subaru. Unexpectedly, yesterday Soma also let Subaru try his beef stew dish, because Soma knew Subaru would investigate him sooner or later. Soma was excited to see how Subaru would upgrade his dish. At this point, Soma was thinking of ways to cook better beef stew, and he remembered his past opponents. They all had their own specialties, but Subaru doesn't have any specialties because he just copies his opponents, while Arina is reading a romance novel. She used to be teased by Alice for not having a boyfriend, but now she feels lonely without Hisako, because Hisako always takes care of Arina. Suddenly, Soma comes to find Arina, which makes her very uncomfortable. It turns out Alice is opening the gate for Soma to come in. At this point, Soma wants Arina to evaluate his dish, but Arina said Soma would have to pay a lot of money if he wanted her evaluation. Suddenly, Soma saw Arina reading the novel. So, Soma mentioned that there are many of these novels at the Polar Star dormitory. When Soma was about to leave, Arina agreed to help them. As soon as Arina saw Soma's dish, she guessed the secret seasoning of his dish. white miso sauce, which surprised them. When Irina tasted it, she said Soma's dish was still not enough, not suitable for participating in this competition, because Soma's dish had lost its focus. So, she sent both of them away without saying anything else, but they still had to pay her fee, which was letting Irina borrow the entire set of romance novels. On Subaru's side, he was practicing mimicking Soma. He was confident that this time he would defeat him. The next morning, Soma was still pondering Irina's words. Suddenly, Ikumi came to find him, and she gave Soma a gift, making her blush and saying, "You must not lose." At this point, Soma saw that Ikumi gave him a lot of premium beef. Suddenly, he remembered Irina's words, and Soma realized something. So, he immediately sent Mitsuru away. In the following days, Soma kept trying to cook beef stew. Finally, the match arrived, making Mitsuru anxious. At this point, Soma also arrived, and Mitsuru could feel Soma's confidence. Soma also sent a message to Takumi. Soma said, "Watch my match." Now, Soma and Subaru have entered the arena. Unexpectedly, the judges for this match were the 5 former students of the academy, and they were also the 5 former Elite 10 council members. When Jin announced the start of the match, both contestants began cooking. Although the judges didn't favor Subaru, they realized that this would be a tough match for Soma. Irina believed that delicious food from an ordinary restaurant was when the diner still found it delicious by the 3rd bite. But for a high-end restaurant, the diner must find it delicious from the first bite. So, Irina realized, if Soma continued to use white miso sauce, he would fail. Suddenly, she saw Soma using oxtail to cook, which surprised everyone, because oxtail contains gelatin, which would enhance the richness of Soma's white miso sauce. Megumi saw Soma finely chopping carrot, onion, and celery, and he sautéed them with wine to enhance the sweetness of the vegetables. This surprised Irina, because in just a few days, Soma's beef stew had changed significantly. It turned out this was Soma's response to Irina. Suddenly, Soma saw that Subaru was also cooking exactly like him. However, he had changed Soma's recipe. Everyone noticed he was cutting the bacon. It turned out, he wanted to make an additional side dish, because French-style beef stew required a side dish. Smelling the aroma of the meat surprised everyone. Subaru had added bacon brine to enhance the flavor of the dish. While Soma remained calm, the judges noticed he hadn't made any side dishes yet, so they thought Soma wouldn't win. Meanwhile, Soma's friends were also worried, because if Soma lost, he would have to give up being a chef. Suddenly, Subaru teased Mitsuru, saying his computer password was too easy. It turns out, he had secretly read Mitsuru's documents about Soma's beef stew recipe. So, Mitsuru immediately felt guilty. Suddenly, Soma opened a box, surprising everyone, because inside were various cuts of beef. Then, Soma began to prepare the beef, baffling everyone. They realized Soma was improvising his cooking. Suddenly, Soma took out a charcoal grill to cook the meat, surprising everyone, while Subaru confidently stated that he had fought against opponents with no strategy, but they were all defeated by him. Finally, Subaru's dish was completed, so he immediately offered the judges a taste, instantly making them feel like the beef was melting in their mouths. Even the flavor was exceptionally rich. At this moment, Subaru informed Soma that he had soaked the bacon in brine for 5 days, then air-dried and smoked it, enhancing the flavor of his meat, making the judges feel like they were wrestling with both beef and pork. While Subaru remained confident in his victory over Soma, Soma felt quite pleased, because Subaru did exactly as he had anticipated. So, Soma presented his dish, promptly causing Subaru to worry. It turned out, he had made a beef stew. Autumn Election Special. Everyone noticed it contained various cuts of beef, but the judges didn't see any side dishes. Soma then said, "Everything is a side dish," while Subaru thought it was just a mishmash of food, impossible to beat his dish. But the judges found it delicious, like they were riding a roller coaster. They could feel the flavor of the tender meat in their mouths. Surprising Subaru, Soma explained. He wouldn't use side dishes to enhance the flavor of the dish, but rather wanted to concentrate all the flavors into one dish. Seeing the judges intrigued, Subaru couldn't understand. This is just one of Soma's impromptu dishes. How could it be so delicious? But Soma said it was all based on his cooking experience. That's something others can never replicate. While the judges were still very excited, they felt like they were having fun at an amusement park. Jin realized Soma never stopped thinking and innovating to find his own dish. In the end, they decided the winner was Soma, putting him into the finals, making everyone very happy, while Subaru was very angry. So, Soma offered him a taste of his dish. Surprisingly, he found it very delicious, bringing back memories of his childhood. Subaru always wanted his father's approval, so he added a small step to his father's recipe. Subaru unintentionally defeated his father in a culinary exhibition, causing him to leave. Since then, he always stayed one step ahead of his opponents and defeated many people. Even Etsuya wants him to become his subordinate. Now, Soma has beaten Subaru, so Soma took all of his kitchen knives to give back to everyone, making them very happy. While Subaru thought he couldn't cook anymore, Soma reassured him. At that moment, Takumi also arrived and said next time he would definitely defeat him. Suddenly, Takumi handed his knife to Soma and said, "One day I will beat you and take this knife back." Now, Soma has declared war on Arena. When he wins this competition, he will challenge her on Akira's side. He's blindfolded to smell the aroma of the ingredients. Surprisingly, he has guessed everything right. On Ryo's side, he's doing push-ups with one hand to prepare for tomorrow's match. The next day, the second semifinal match began. Ryo will compete against Akira. Soma also couldn't predict who would win this match, while Arena is feeling very annoyed because Soma is sitting close to her. Jin announced that their challenge will also be a main dish in Western cuisine. When the match just started, everyone noticed Akira was cutting duck meat, while everyone highly praises Akira, as he deserves to be a candidate for the Elite 10 Council. On Soma and Arena's side, they speculate about Ryo's skills. Suddenly, Alice arrived and told Soma that Ryo's skill cannot be measured by theory, because the taste in his dishes surpasses logic. And she realizes Ryo's fighting spirit is very strong. Seeing Ryo prepare eel, it surprised the judges. Jin feels they're like eagles and tigers fighting each other. At this point, Akira has put the meat in the oven, making the aroma spread throughout the arena, surprising everyone. But Ryo is very focused. Turns out he's frying eel. When the eel reaches the highest temperature, Ryo adds red wine and cinnamon. Arena recognizes this as the French dish matelote, and he wrapped the eel with fat netting before frying it, to help the dish maintain its rich flavor. Ryo then mashed the potatoes and added them to the oven. As Ryo was feeling confident of his victory, Akira added his final touch to the dish, and thus, his duck apicius was completed. Upon smelling the aroma of the dish, the judges became intrigued, prompting them to immediately taste it. To their surprise, the dish was delicious, leaving them feeling like ducks themselves. Jin recognized that Akira had utilized a variety of spices, stimulating both the olfactory and gustatory senses of the diners. Akira and Ryo felt like they were engaged in a card battle. While Akira believed he would win, Ryo had also completed his eel matelote dish, although it didn't smell like Akira's dish. The judges found the eel meat very tender. As they tasted it, it felt like an electric current running through their bodies. They realized he had used dried plums. The eel was made rich and creamy with a tangy flavor spreading in the mouth. Ryo mentioned there was still brioche bread and mashed potatoes as accompaniments. As the judges tasted the dish with the eel, they found themselves delighted and couldn't stop eating, because all the flavors blended perfectly together, while Akira was quite surprised. Finally, there was a result. 2 judges chose Akira's dish, but Jin chose Ryo's because he liked the bold flavors of his dish. The girl was also very torn, but she chose Ryo's dish, surprising everyone because their results were tied. At this point, everyone focused on the final decision, but she couldn't make up her mind, which angered Ryo. Jin said their skills were equal, so the decision was to let both advance to the finals, and they would compete against Soma, making everyone excited. The principal also agreed, and the final match would be among the 3. At this point, Satoshi prepared to announce the topic of the final match. Turns out, the theme of the final match is the Pacific Saori dish, and the final match will take place in 10 days, making all 3 very excited. While Ryo and Akira are still angry about today's result, they are determined to win in the final match. The next morning, Soma and Megumi went to the fish market, making them very excited, because there are many types of fish here. But Soma only searched for Pacific Saori, because Pacific Saori is also on the menu of Soma's restaurant, so he is very confident about this dish. Suddenly, they encountered Ryo and Alice. It turns out they are also there to find Pacific Saori. Unexpectedly, Ryo is very knowledgeable about fish. Just by looking once, he can choose a high-quality fish. But Soma doesn't want to lose to him, so both of them quickly prepare the Pacific Saori dish. After finishing, they let Megumi taste it. She immediately realizes that Soma's Pacific Saori is not as good as Ryo's. It turns out, Ryo just needs to look at and touch the fish. He can choose a fresh fish, so Ryo is very confident in his experience to beat Soma. Suddenly, they accidentally hear that Akira has also arrived. He just needs to smell to choose the 2 freshest fish. At this moment, Soma realizes his ingredient assessment technique is not as good as theirs. Suddenly, Soma remembers his father. He said it takes 10 years to learn how to assess a fish, but he only has 10 days until the final match. This disappoints Soma. Right now, Soma is still trying to think of a way to assess the Pacific Saori. Suddenly, he realized something, so Soma immediately went to find Ibusaki. Then, he rushed to the school to find Ikumi, making Ikumi embarrassed. Thinking he was going to confess to her, turns out, he wanted everyone's help. Soma said he would choose Pacific Saori a few days before the match, because he wanted to ferment the Pacific Saori. So, Soma gathered the masters in fermentation techniques. Immediately, it excites them and they agree to help Soma. Thus, Soma started learning how to ferment Pacific Sauri. Sakari guided Soma on how to ferment the Pacific Sauri. Ibusaki guides Soma on the technique of marinating the block. Ikumi instructed him on adjusting the temperature. Finally, Soma's fermentation experiment was completed. When they tasted it, they found it delicious. But Megumi still felt it wasn't as good as fresh fish from the market. So, Soma had to continue searching for a solution, as he only had 6 days left. When Soma planned to buy more Pacific Sauri for experimentation, he encountered Fumio drinking sake. Suddenly, Soma realized something, so he came up with a plan. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. Ryo and Akira went to select fresh Pacific Sauri, but they didn't see Soma anywhere. This made them curious about what Soma was up to. By this time, the final round had begun, so Ryo, Akira, and Soma have all stepped onto the arena. And their judges for the day, aside from the headmaster and Jin, the last one being Leonora. It turns out she's Alice's mother. At this point, the match had begun. While Ryo and Akira both chose high-quality Pacific Sauri, Soma surprised everyone, because they didn't know what he was holding. Akira realized Soma was fermenting the Pacific Sauri. Ryo and Akira were both confident they would defeat Soma. Suddenly, the arena's ceiling was opened, revealing a bright moon that delighted everyone. This made Jin reminisce about his own match with Soma's father. At this point, Soma had begun fermenting the Pacific Sauri, while Ryo had prepared a variety of other seafood. The judges recognized that he was cooking an Italian-style fish dish. Alice recalled the time she met Ryo, because she wanted Ryo to become her assistant, so Alice competed in a cooking duel with him, and Alice emerged victorious. Since then, Ryo became Alice's assistant, but they still continued to compete against each other. Finally, Ryo emerged victorious over Alice. However, he still referred to her as Mistress Alice. At this point, Soma and Akira realized that Ryo had used food wrap to retain heat, ensuring the food remained cooked when wrapped. It turned out that through his battles with Alice, Ryo had gained some knowledge of science. Ryo then declared to Akira, "This dish of mine will defeat you." Everyone noticed that half of the allotted time had passed, and Ryo had already completed his dish, so he presented it to the judges for tasting. Unexpectedly, as soon as he unwrapped the food wrap, everyone immediately caught the aroma of various seafood. It turned out that Ryo's dish was named Autumn Pacific Sauri Cartoccio. When the judges tasted it, they could immediately sense the aroma of Pacific Sauri, combined with various other seafood. The headmaster noticed that the scent of this dish was herbal. It turned out he had used herb butter. When you put herb butter and Pacific Sauri together in the oven, the herbal flavor will seep into the Pacific Sauri, enhancing the taste of the dish. It made Alice's mother very excited, and they felt like they were swimming in the sea. Now, it's Akira's turn to present his dish, which surprises Ryo, because Akira's Pacific Sauri is just an appetizer. Ryo believes Akira can't win with this dish. Suddenly, Akira uses a blowtorch on the dish, making the judges smell its aroma. It turns out Akira's dish is called Scorched Pacific Sauri Carpaccio, making everyone in the arena smell the dish's aroma. When Alice's mother tastes it, she immediately senses the wonderful taste of Pacific Sauri. The headmaster realizes that he only used one spice, which is black pepper, and combined it with the blowtorch, making his dish fresher and more delicious. The headmaster sees Ryo and Akira as two warriors battling each other, one representing the explosion of taste, and one representative for aroma and spices. But this time, Akira has gained the advantage because the judges have finished all of his dish. Finally, it's Soma's turn. As he opens his dish, the judges immediately catch an irresistible aroma. So, it turns out Soma's dish is Ojiya-style Pacific Sauri Takikomi Gohan. Everyone realizes that Soma soaked the Pacific Sauri in rice bran. That's when Leonora and Jin immediately taste it, making them thoroughly enjoy the dish, feeling the Pacific Sauri seeping into their bodies. They realize Soma grilled the Pacific Sauri before cooking it, enhancing the aroma of his dish. They even sense the rich flavor of the fish permeating the rice. It turns out rice bran is a method to eliminate the fishy smell. Thanks to him learning from everyone's cooking experiences, Soma devised this fermentation method on his own, leaving everyone astonished. They felt Soma was like a master swordsmith. Everyone thought Soma would win, but they noticed the headmaster was still not convinced. They realized Soma's dish was not enough to defeat Ryo and Akira. Soma then said, "It's not over yet." Marina recognized it as miso soup. So, Soma poured the soup over the dish for the judges to taste. Jin observed the soup blending with the sticky rice, surprising him. As the headmaster tasted it, his clothes immediately tore apart. He realized Soma's soup was made with soy milk. Turns out, Soma combined cheese, soy milk, and miso to create this soup. Alice and Arena realized soy milk would enhance Soma's rice, combined with the flavor of Pacific Sauri, creating a powerful taste. Jin realized there was still one more ingredient. Turns out, it was crunchy pickled plum. Soma's dish delighted Alice's mother. It makes her recall the moment she discovered her true love. At that moment, Satoshi remembered Soma's father once saying, Soma didn't possess any outstanding talent in cooking, but he never grew bored of it. So, Soma always fearlessly faced challenges, a strength even Joichiro lacked. Satoshi reveals to Etsuya. The reason everyone hated Soma was because if they acknowledged him, it meant they were acknowledging their own lack of effort. But now, everyone was forced to recognize Soma. Finally, the headmaster announced the results, making all 3 contestants anxious as they waited. Akira reminisces about his life 8 years ago. Turns out, he was an orphan in the slums. Luckily, Akira met Shiomi, so he was able to come to this academy and showcase his cooking talent. Since then, Akira has decided he will always strive to win for Shiomi, and he will use his aromatic power to change the world of flavors. Finally, the headmaster announced, the winner is indeed Akira, which surprised everyone. Shiomi was very happy that Akira won. Suddenly, he hugged her, making her feel embarrassed, while Ryo was fuming with anger. But Alice immediately reproached him for losing. At that moment, Soma recalled his father's promise, until you defeat me again, you must not lose to anyone else. Suddenly, Soma wanted to taste Akira's dish, and Ryo also wanted to try it. At this point, neither of them was conceding to the other, so they continued to argue back and forth. Jin found their interaction quite amusing. Finally, the autumn elections came to an end. At this moment, Soma's group decided to celebrate. Suddenly, he received a call from Joichiro. It turned out that Soma's father knew he had lost in the autumn elections, so he teased Soma about it. But Soma felt fortunate to leave restaurant Yukihira, as he had learned so much here, and Soma would continue to search for what could be called his own dish before he returned to take over restaurant Yukihira. Joichiro realized Soma's exposure to many new chefs. It will help him continue to develop. The next day, Soma had Ryo try his Pacific Saori dish, while Akira feels irritated because they gathered here. But both of them still want to try Akira's Pacific Saori dish. At this moment, Soma has offered Ryo a taste of his karage roll. Suddenly, Shiomi informs them that the academy is about to have an internship for first-year students. They will be taken to famous restaurants, but if they tarnish the school's reputation, they will be expelled, which excites Soma. The next day, he prepared to go to the internship location. Unexpectedly, his companion on the trip is Hisako, which makes her very uncomfortable, because she doesn't like Soma. While they thought they would go to a big restaurant, unexpectedly, both of them arrived at a small European restaurant. Even all the customers left. At this point, they met the owner named Mamoru. When he found out they were students from Totsuki Culinary Academy, he immediately asked for their autographs. So, both started changing into the restaurant's uniforms. At this point, Hisako told Soma she's no longer Irina's assistant because she lost in the autumn elections. As they finished cleaning up the restaurant, suddenly, a lot of customers showed up, which surprised Hisako, because she saw everyone working very quickly, so she also started working. Finally, they finished serving the first wave of customers, but the second wave of customers immediately rushed in, shocking Hisako. She felt like she was in a war zone. However, Soma worked very quickly, surprising everyone. He even handled the situation very well. Although Hisako didn't like Soma giving her orders, she had to set aside her pride to cooperate with everyone. Turns out, Hisako had never encountered such a crowded situation before. By the evening, everyone had finished their work, making them very happy and thankful to Soma and Hisako, which surprised Hisako. Suddenly, Soma slapped Hisako on the back to cheer her up, making Hisako angry. On Irina's side, she has declined the restaurant's head chef because he forced Irina to wash dishes, leaving Megumi unsure of what to do. Even the customers praised Irina's dishes, making the head chef even more uncomfortable. Seeing Irina managing the kitchen, he realized she was taking over his position. On Soma and Hisako's side, they helped improve the restaurant's situation, but they realized, if they left, the restaurant would revert to its previous state. So, Hisako gathered everyone together and suggested they reduce the menu to decrease the workload, but Mamoru opposed the idea because the restaurant's menu was left by his father. Soma immediately said that keeping it that way would be unfair to the customers because they had to wait constantly for their dishes. So, Soma suggested they serve customers who made reservations in advance, making everyone worried. But Hisako said if they didn't change, the restaurant wouldn't grow any further. The next day, they changed according to Soma's suggestion, which helped reduce the restaurant's workload, and it helped provide a better experience for the customers. By the evening, they met the academy supervisor, and she graded them as passing in this internship. It turns out she had been monitoring them all along. At this point, Soma realized that Hisako wanted to go back to Irina, so he gave her a lot of romance novels and asked her to send them to Irina for him, which made her very happy. The next day, Soma heard that Shinomiya was returning to Japan to open a branch. While Shinomiya was worried about finding trainee chefs, suddenly, Soma went to find him, which made Shinomiya very happy. Unexpectedly, Shinomiya assigned Soma the task of cleaning up, and Soma met the restaurant's staff. Abel is the head chef of the restaurant, and he saw Soma being friendly with Shinomiya, which made him curious about who Soma was, because he had spent a lot of time getting close to Shinomiya before. After finishing cleaning up, everyone felt exhausted, so Shinomiya went into the kitchen to cook for them, making them very happy. While Soma didn't know what dish this was, Abel explained that it was French quiche, a famous lunch dish from Paris. So, they tried it, and they found it delicious. Soma realized Shinomiya used burdock root, and he figured out Shinomiya's recipe, which impressed Abel very much. But Shinomiya felt it wasn't enough yet, which surprised Soma. Shinomiya realized Soma came here for an internship to find his own dish. So, Shinomiya decided to let Soma into the kitchen. Everyone noticed that customers had arrived, thus, they all started working. Soma saw everyone working very quickly. As customers tried Shinomiya's dish, they felt like they were flying in the sky. Soma realized that everyone here worked very professionally, so he had to try to keep up with their speed. Because the principle here is that when customers finish one dish, they must immediately bring out the next one. When Soma couldn't prepare the next dish in time, Shinomiya immediately organized everyone to handle the tasks, making Soma feel very slow and affecting everyone's work, which made Abel very uncomfortable. But Soma immediately apologized and focused on his work. On the other hand, the other students, they are also trying to overcome their internship. On Soma's side, after finishing work, he was allowed to rest. But Shinomiya warned Soma that tomorrow there would be 3 times more customers than today. If he continued to work slowly, there would be no place for him here. That night, Soma remembered his days at the academy, so he immediately studied how to prepare the restaurant's ingredients. The next day, Soma was the first to wake up, surprising everyone. Suddenly, they realized Soma had cleaned up and prepared all the ingredients, surprising Abel, because Soma had stayed up all night to prepare everything. When the restaurant began to welcome guests, so Soma worked very quickly, and in the evening, he continued to study how to prepare ingredients. But the next day, he did much better, and Soma also learned a lot from everyone here, which surprised Abel. While Soma progressed and worked very quickly, Abel realized he had fallen behind. In fact, Soma even prepared ingredients to help them, surprising everyone. After Soma finished his work, so Shinomiya announced that tomorrow would be the final opening day. At this point, they felt confident about Soma. Shinomiya remembered when Soma challenged him to a food war, so he had a lot of faith in Soma's determination. Suddenly, Soma proposed, "I want you to organize a competition tomorrow," which surprised Shinomiya and everyone else, because Soma had come up with a new dish. So, Shinomiya agreed. The next morning, Soma asked Abel about French cuisine. He realized that French dishes took a lot of time to prepare. Suddenly, Shinomiya announced, "Today marks Soma's final day of work." Even though there were many customers, Soma did an excellent job. So, Shinomiya's final opening day ended very well. At this point, he told Soma he had invited a special group of guests. They turned out to be judges and former students. Even Shinomiya's mother came. This surprised everyone. At this point, Soma asked, "Why did you choose French cuisine?" It turns out, because his mother loves French cuisine. So, Shinomiya decided to become a French cuisine chef. And Shinomiya told everyone, his goal is to achieve 3 Michelin stars. At this point, when people heard Soma would compete with Shinomiya with a new dish, it surprised them. Suddenly, Soma realized Wei, Lucy, and Abel also participated in this competition. So, Soma and they started cooking. At this point, Soma remembered his father's French-style fried fish technique. Thus, Soma realized his father had accumulated a lot of experience from various countries, and he had incorporated all those techniques into his restaurant. So, Soma felt like he had mastered all the techniques. At this point, Shinomiya tasted Wei, Lucy, and Abel's dishes. Finally, Soma completed his dish. They realized his dish was quail stuffed with risotto. It turns out quail is a common ingredient in France and Italy. But everyone noticed Soma's dish was very unique, because he combined it with various other ingredients. As soon as Shinomiya tasted it, he immediately realized inside the quail were eggs and risotto. Hanako also tasted it and she was delighted, because she could feel the combination of egg and meat. It turns out Soma fried the quail with oil. Before putting it in the oven, he combined quail eggs with salt, pepper, and fresh cream. Then, he cooked the risotto with milk. Next, he made a sauce combined with honey, and he did all this using French cooking techniques. Abel couldn't understand how he could stuff risotto into quail. It turns out Soma wrapped the risotto with boiled cabbage. At this point, Soma decided to include quail stuffed with risotto on the menu at his new Yukihira restaurant. While everyone thought Shinomiya would choose this dish for his menu, Shinomiya said the dish was too bad to serve here, surprising everyone. However, he said he would help Soma adjust some flaws in this dish, which made Soma happy, so he started helping Soma. The next morning, Soma accepted Shinomiya as his master, which made him feel embarrassed. But he told Soma, "You have to take the #1 spot at Totsuki Culinary Academy." On the other hand, other students are still trying to complete this internship. While Soma's new dish has been added to Shinomiya's restaurant menu, on Soma's side, He has returned to the academy, unexpectedly. He received many challenges for Food Wars, which made Soma very excited. Today's video ends here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's support Oni-chan in the upcoming videos. Wishing you all a happy day and see you in the next videos. Love you all.